Good evening. The October 28th meeting of the Evanston City Council will come to order. Would the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember Burns, Councilmember Sufferton, Councilmember Ravel.
Here.
Councilmember Reed is not here. Councilmember Hadakaris.
Here.
Councilmember Kelly. Here. Councilmember Harris is here. Councilmember Newsma.
Here.
Councilmember Nguyen is not here. Councilmember Reed is here. And Mayor Biss.
Here. We have a quorum and are prepared to do our work for the evening. We are going to have one change in the order of the agenda. We're going to begin with my announcements and proclamations, and then we'll continue with the rest of the agenda as printed and available online. And please add Councilmember Burns to the roll as well. There's just no way to say this except that Evanston lost an absolute giant this week. I think about the fact that Ms. Holmes served on city council when I moved here. I literally can't imagine a city council before her time. And we who work in this building think about the really remarkable work that she did as a city council member for 12 years, both as a policymaker here, doing incredible work in the community. We think of that as a truly extraordinary lifetime of achievements. As it turns out, that was kind of a little fraction of what she did. That was 12 years in a remarkable career. She spent 27 years as the founding executive director of Family Focus. You know, we think of Family Focus as this inevitable juggernaut, this kind of transformational force in the way people in this country think about caring for moms and kids and families. And that wasn't inevitable. That was because of Ms. Holmes' vision and leadership and work. I think those of you who are not sitting up here probably would not believe how engaged she was in what we do, how she watched every council meeting. She was a frequent participant, as y'all maybe noticed. By the way, you probably noticed that, when she spoke, everybody listened for really, really good reason. I think a lot about the groundbreaking ceremony at Foster School that we had a few months ago. And look, make no mistake, that was a special moment for a lot of people for a lot of reasons. And that was, a deeply, deeply meaningful occasion. But then when she stood up and stepped forward, it just took on a different level of significance and seriousness and weight. So it's sort of hard to even really put in words what we lost when she passed just a few days ago, but I think it's maybe more important to put in words what we gained through her service over the course of her 87 years of life, 84 years as an Evanstonian, and many, many decades as a really pivotal leader in this community. I've also been thinking a lot about her in these few days because she projected this example of absolute fierce dedication to justice in a collaborative spirit that I think we kind of don't really know how to do that very well anymore. And it's a lesson that I think we all really ought to spend some time thinking about how to best learn from her. She never compromised on questions of justice. She was never hesitant to speak her mind when the cause of justice demanded her voice be raised. And she always found a way to do it in a way that brought people in and brought them along and moved the ball toward her objective. It was really remarkable and really special. And so I think all of us are hurting. All of us are thinking about what we already miss and are going to miss. And I know that all of us are thinking about not only what we've already learned from her, but what we can carry forward in that legacy as we continue to think about and learn from her. And I know that a lot of Ms. Holmes' family is here. Obviously, her daughter, Kimberly Holmes Ross, is sitting in the front row. Somebody who, you know, where she learned how to conduct herself. You see that every day in her work at Cradle to Career. And as much as we as a community are hurting, we know that you are hurting in a special way. And we just want you to know that our love is with you, our prayers are with you, our thoughts are with you, and our appreciation is with you, not only on a sort of policy and leadership level for what she did for this community, but for what we know that you as a family sacrificed to give the way you gave. And so I just want to say thank you. And there will be a variety of commemorations, visitation on Thursday evening, and memorial service on Friday morning, and a repast Friday afternoon. And know that our offer to surround you with love and appreciation doesn't come to an end on Friday, but extends in perpetuity, and our thoughts are with you in perpetuity. And I know it's a sort of formal thing, but I want to just share a resolution. We were, the last thing we want to do is break the law in honoring Ms. Holmes. So we're not going to take a vote on this resolution in violation of the Open Meetings Act, as our Corporation Counsel advises us not to. But I do want to just read this tribute, a resolution in memory of the Honorable former Alderperson Dolores A. Holmes. Whereas Dolores A. Holmes, longtime Fifth Ward resident of Evanston, Illinois, transitioned on October 22nd, 2024 at the age of 86. And whereas Dolores A. Holmes was the beloved wife of William Wild Bill Holmes, now deceased, for 44 years, and a devoted and cherished mother and grandmother. And whereas Dolores A. Holmes gave decades of her compassionate heart, leadership, and much more to the entire Evanston community, she served as the executive director of Family Focus for 27 years, and later as alderperson of the Fifth Ward for 12 years. And whereas Dolores A. Holmes was known for advocating for families and youth and championing equity and community development, she served on many boards and truly believed in supporting her community in whatever way she could. She worked relentlessly throughout her career to make Evanston a better place to live and work, whether by serving on various boards or speaking at city council meetings, which she did regularly. And whereas Dolores A. Holmes was a pillar of our community and will be remembered for years to come, leaving a legacy we all will cherish. And whereas God called Dolores A. Holmes from labor to rest, we, the Evanston City Council, offer our sincere condolences and prayers in the passing of our most cherished community member. May her family find comfort, strength, peace, and encouragement during this very difficult time in the knowledge that Dolores A. Holmes is at rest. Now, therefore, be it resolved that this resolution be given this 28th day of October 2024 to the family of Dolores A. Holmes on behalf of the Evanston City Council and the entire Evanston community. And I would ask the room to join me in a moment of silence when we remember Ms. Holmes, after which I'll ask other members of council to share their thoughts as well. But first, please, a moment of silence. Thank you very much. Are there any members of council who would like to share thoughts at this time? Councilmember Reed.
In Evanston's Black community, certainly speaking from my own perspective, there's Edwin B. Jourdain, there's Lorraine Morton, and there's Dolores Holmes, who I think have served over the last century as the pillars of our entire community, but particularly the Black community, and have touched multiple generations. My mother went to Family Focus. I went to programming there. And Alderman Holmes few years ago when I was running for city clerk, at a time similar to this time where candidates were petitioning, I was out petitioning and I got arrested for petitioning, and I was taken down to the Evanston Police Department. And the first person I called was Alderman Holmes. And I called her crying because of what had just happened. And within minutes, Alderman Holmes did what she does for everyone that she can't help. She helped. She did something. So I just want to add my voice to the folks who honor your mother, your grandmother, your family, and thank you for sharing her with us, and thank you for giving her the strength to do everything that she's done this long, and a lot of it was likely poured into you from her and then reciprocated back, but. Yeah, just Alderwoman Holmes was just a pillar of this community that will continue to hold us up. So thank you.
Councilmember Harris.
Kim, I know it's hard and it'll be hard, but we loved your mom. Your mom was Evanston. When you look around, there's very little that she didn't touch or influence. And that's a life well lived. There are generations that can't do that. She poured into everything, not just her community, not just her people, but everyone. And she poured into you. She poured into your family. And I see that in the work that you do. It is our job on this council, but in the city, to make sure we continue that. That's what she wanted. And people hear me say all the time, good leaders create other leaders. And she did that. And her video even showcased that she built a ladder and asked other people to come along. A funny story, and I won't disclose names, but at every council meeting, your mom would text me, and especially if we got off topic, Chrissy, get them together. So if you ever go back, which some of you do, and watch a council meeting and you see me just do this random smile, it was Dolores Holmes telling me to do something up here she knew I couldn't do. And I will continue. So if you have her phone and I text back at some weird council meeting, know that she has touched my spirit in some way and from heaven told me, Chrissy, get them back on track. Or the different things she talked about. I'll share with you the messages. No one else can see those messages. But thank you for sharing her. It takes a lot from a family when a parent is that active and that good at being active, because we can be active and not be good. But Dolores was good at what she did. So thank you for sacrificing that time. We're here. As the mayor said, it gets lonely later because we move on. I'm down the street. You know how to reach me. I know how to reach you. We have a group. We have an army because your mom made us soldiers, and we're here for you. So just want to let you know we love you.
Councilmember Burns.
It just dawned on me right here. The first thing I want to say is, although Alderman Holmes was a lot to many people, she was your mother. And hopefully I can hold it together because I'm thinking about my mother. And all that aside, she was your mother. And I know it's an incredible loss for you because I know I don't even know if I'd be able to be here right now. And so we're glad you're here and we're with you. But I just want to acknowledge that first. That was mom. That was grandma. That was somebody, that Miss Holmes was a family member and a very important family member And so I just want to acknowledge that, the tremendous loss, and we're all here for you. Ms. Holmes was an institution. It's like some people are known as that person that works at Family Focus, but she was like the institution. In the same way, I think I saw Dino Robinson in the back, is like people know Shorefront, but they know Dino, right? You know Family Focus, but you know Ms. Holmes. And I was just sitting here thinking, like, how does that happen? It doesn't happen by chance. It happens because for 27 years, her work as alderman aside, every single day she got up, and there were hundreds of children, I'm sure, each year through many generations that she served every single day, including the parents and grandparents as well. And if anybody that knows Family Focus, it's not set up in a way where the director is going to be off in an office. You know, they're out in the hallways, they're interacting with the instructors, they're interacting with the youth. From what I heard, they outside breaking up fights too sometimes. And she was all of that. She did all of that at Family Focus for 27 years. And so I said this when we were with Robert Crown, when we were talking about redoing Robert Crown. I said, everybody has a Robert Crown story. You know, some people skated there. I did martial arts there. Everybody had a Robert Crown story, in the Fifth Ward in particular, but I think Evanston as a whole, but in the Fifth Ward in particular, everybody has interacted or been impacted by Miss Holmes in some way. She is an institution here in Evanston, and I feel very fortunate that I had an opportunity to live alongside her and learn a lot from her. So thank you.
Are there any further council members who wish to share thoughts? Councilmember Ravel.
Well, just real briefly, as you have heard tonight and you've been hearing for several days, I mean, Dolores was such a wonderful exemplar for all of us, no matter what part of Evanston we lived in. With Dolores, I mean, she packed in more leadership roles than most, anybody could think of. Most people would have retired for good once she finished at Family Focus, but no, she carried on. And suddenly there she was, being Fifth Ward council member for 12 years. And then once she finished sitting up here at the dais, she continued, as Mayor Biss mentioned, she continued to be up. You could see her little name up there. She was watching us and zooming in to tell us, share words of wisdom with us and help guide us to make the right decision. So she was just a really, really wonderful person, a wonderful person for all of us to emulate. So I really send my deepest love and sympathies to the family.
Thank you very much. Mr. Stowe, would you add some thoughts as well, please?
Sure.
Good evening, Mayor, Council Members, Clerk Mendoza. On behalf of all city staff, our deepest sympathy and condolences go out to the Holmes family and friends. She was a pleasure to work with in her official and unofficial capacities. We're very grateful for her 12 years of service, outstanding service as Alderwoman. Wanted to share a few quick related announcements. A book of remembrance will be available on the first floor during business hours through the end of day on Friday, November 1st. Flags at city facilities will be lowered this Wednesday through Friday. Also in her honor, black and purple bunting has been added to the exterior of the Civic Center. And I just wanted to share service information on Thursday, October 31st from 3:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. at Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church, 1113 Clark Street will be the visitation. Funeral service and burial Friday, November 1st, First Church of God at 1524 Simpson Street. That visitation from 10 to 11, funeral at 11 a.m. There'll be a public burial service following the funeral, and then a repast will be held at Levy Center at 1:30 p.m. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. And I want to echo Councilmember Burns' comments. Thank you for being with us tonight. it really is a gift to the community to give us this opportunity to say what needs to be said about Ms. Holmes. So we'll continue to hold you in our hearts, and just make sure that you're reaching out so that we know how we can best support the whole family. It's a little hard to just go on with the agenda, but I don't think Ms. Holmes would have wanted us to skip a city council meeting. She certainly never did. So I have two more announcements. What's that? Oh, sorry. So Councilmember Burns points out, I also have this resolution to give you. Would you like it at this time, or do you want me to hold it for later? It's really... Well, let me pass it along right now then. All right, I have two other announcements. First of all, Thursday is Halloween. So a reminder, the trick-or-treating hours are 4 to 7 on Thursday. And my next announcement is actually a really joyous celebration. And so this is about the granting of the Cultural Heritage Awards. These awards are a project that's really spearheaded by the Preservation Commission. And the purpose of the Cultural Heritage Awards program is really fourfold. First of all, it is to promote best practices in historic preservation. It's to celebrate successes and good examples of really exemplary work in the field. It's to educate and increase public awareness for our own cultural heritage here in Evanston. And finally, and maybe even most importantly, it's to encourage future excellence through the power of example. And so there were 12 nominations made for the Cultural Heritage Award this year. There was a really distinguished panel of jurors. One of the remarkable joys of serving in this role is that the depth of expertise of Evanston residents in so many different arenas is truly remarkable and inspiring. And they chose 5 different awardees. And so what I'm going to do is say something about each of the awardees now. There's a little bit that I found very informative that was written about each of them. And then we'll ask them all to come forward and receive their awards. So the first of the awards is the Cultural Ambassador Award, being given to no stranger to this chamber and no stranger to this body, Charles Smith of the Jens Jensen Gardens in Evanston. And the citation reads as follows: for his highly influential and inspiring decades of dedication to the creation, interpretation, protection, and overall enhancement of Evanston's cultural heritage, Charles Smith is recognized as the 2024 Cultural Ambassador. This is the highest form of recognition bestowed by the Preservation Commission. Charles has worked tirelessly to call attention to, protect, and transform the Jens Jensen and Alfred Caldwell design grounds of the Harley-Clark Mansion. This work, as well as his long-standing commitment to stewardship of the city's significant landscapes and built environments, have fostered community action, enhanced storytelling opportunities, and exemplified a sense of civic responsibility. And on a personal note, I'll just say he's a heck of a good teacher, too. I do not want to pretend that I took the oath of office as mayor knowing anything about Jens Jensen's legacy, and I feel lucky to have had you be the one to open my eyes, Charles. Thank you. The next award is for Outstanding Individual Achievement to Blair Thrush Lele with an unwavering commitment to the restoration and stewardship of her 1897 home located at 1228 Forest Avenue. Blair has demonstrated a significant contribution to the cultural heritage of the city. The home, designed by Franklin Pierce Burnham, was one of Evanston's earliest landmark designations from 1978. Over her more than 3 decades of ownership, Blair has embodied the responsibility that comes with taking title to a landmark property that is deeply associated with the community's memory of place. Her meticulous efforts have enhanced and given renewed life to her home for the enjoyment of future generations of Evanstonians. The Outstanding Group Achievement goes to the Shorefront Legacy Center. So I think it was mentioned that both Mr. Robinson and Ms. Bell are here sitting with each other in the second row. The Shorefront Legacy Center stands apart for an exceptional commitment to preserving and interpreting the rich history of Black individuals in Evanston, a community inexorably linked with the broader history of the city and our unique identity. Shorefront's nationally recognized contributions have fostered social connection, identified less tangible histories, strengthened multicultural dialogue and understanding, and celebrated Evanston's diversity. Shorefront's breadth of work has stimulated conversation and deeply enriched the cultural heritage of the city, laying a foundation for future generations to build upon. And I think it would be an oversight not to say not only laying a foundation for future generations to build upon, but laying a foundation for this body to react to and make policy in large part because of. And for that, we especially up here owe you a particular debt of gratitude, as does anyone in Evanston who thinks that the reparations work that we're undertaking is important and valuable. So thank you for that as well. And then there are 2 honor awards being given as well. The first is to Evanston Latinos. Since its formation in 2017, the work of Evanston Latinos has called attention to and strengthened a sense of community and civic responsibility. They have been instrumental in identifying, advocating for, interpreting, and celebrating the stories and heritage of the Latina, immigrant, undocumented, and mixed status community in Evanston. This work has benefited and enriched the entire community and strengthened our body of cultural heritage. It's just flabbergasting to see the number 2017 there. When you think about the effect that Evanston Latinos has had on the cultural and social and, frankly, political life of this town, the capacity to do all that in such a short runway, and the aching need, frankly, that existed prior to the creation of Evanston Latinos, I think is just truly, truly striking. And finally, Northwestern University's Center for Native American and Indigenous Research, or CNARE. CNARE is recognized for their extraordinary cultural heritage work, especially the collaborative land acknowledgement project that resulted in the creation of the Wigwasi-Jiman birch bark canoe, now installed in the Siegel Visitor Center. The work's cultural meaning and long-term contribution to the city of Evanston's diverse heritage is solidified by the transfer of Native American and Indigenous knowledge and traditions. This in turn nurtures an expanded sense of place in Evanston that definitively and positively includes our city's Native American and Indigenous cultural heritage. And so with that, if I could ask the awardees, as well as members of the City of Evanston team and the Preservation Commission who are involved in overseeing this, to step forward and receive their recognitions. And if I could ask the audience to join me in giving them an enthusiastic round of applause for their wonderful work.
To really scooch in, really. This way, 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 this way. Thank you. Yes. Yeah. No. Good. Yeah. Yes. Thank you. No, you're good. You're good. We just need to. You stay here, but you come in. Okay. Okay.
Kate and Sarah. Come on. Okay, come on, come on, come on. Come on in. Chief? Okay. Come on, Miss Wedlow. Miss Wedlow does it good. You are the people. Thank you very much.
Do you want a picture also?
I want a picture of you guys.
Okay.
We brought Cinderella.
Yeah. Come on, Dad. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. This is how it usually is. I've never done this before. It's okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Reed.
Thank you. I just want to add my voice to congratulating all of the recipients. One, Shorefront. I've learned so much from Dino, and one of the most exciting moments of being in office is when I learned from Shorefront that Alderman Edwin B. Jourdain was expelled from office when he was first elected by the city council, and he was expelled by a vote of the council. A very different council than the council that we have today. And it was based on unfair, racist charges. But they didn't have a record of exactly what happened. And so the clerk's office went on a hunt to find the record. And I was just overjoyed when we found it, and I was able to send it over to Dino. Because for me, it felt like being a part of, one, archiving history here in Evanston and Black history, but closing the loop on a story that had been open for almost 100 years. And so I appreciate what Shorefront does for the community. I appreciate that, giving me that excitement of searching for that document, but and everything that Shorefront has done for our reparations program and for our community as a whole. Evanston Latinos, again, as the mayor noted, a new organization that has done a whole lot for the Latino community, but again, for our community as a whole. A few years back, went to the Hispanic Heritage Month celebration in the 8th Ward that took place at James Park. And again, one of my favorite memories from my time serving in office thus far. And then Mr. Smith, which I think you're out there somewhere, but Charles is an 8th Warder. And as the mayor noted, I have learned so much, more than I probably want to know about Jens Jensen and the grounds there. But also just beyond that, but revealed through that, you're just an inspiration for someone who wakes up every day with a purpose, be it your grandkids that we got to see today, or your work with Jens Jensen. When I reach your age, I hope to have the pep that you do. I remember when we were out at the Harley Clark Mansion, I saw Charles, going around doing his gardening work, and he jumped up onto a rock, and I thought, Jesus Christ, when I'm in my 70s, if I'm able to jump up on stuff, and I will be a happy, happy man. So thank you for all that you do for our community.
That concludes my public announcements and proclamations. We now move back to the regularly scheduled agenda, which begins with a public hearing for the FY 2025 proposed budget.
So moved.
Pursuant to the Illinois compiled statutes and section 1-11-5 of the city code, the Evanston City Council is conducting a public hearing today to consider the fiscal year 2025 proposed budget document. The purpose of this hearing is to allow for public input on the proposed budget document. There will be no final action on the budget today. I want to just sort of expand on that a little bit. This hearing is the minimum the state requires us to do. We're not really interested in doing the minimum, so we're going to be back here next week to have more discussions about the budget, and there won't be votes then either, and then further meetings as well. But in addition to doing all the public input and discussion that we believe is necessary, we also do the legal minimum required by the state, and so that's what's happening right now. Staff has presented an overview of the fiscal year 2025 proposed budget back on October 14th of this year. This presentation, along with the proposed budget itself, is available at cityofelvanston.org/government/budget. I hereby convene the hearing for the fiscal year 2025 proposed budget open. There was a sign-in sheet for budget hearing public comment that had nobody on it, so I'm going to check the online signups as well. Once again, there are no members of the public requesting to participate in the public hearing, so we now move to members of City Council. Councilmember Reed.
I've said this with love to this council before, but this time I'm not talking to the council. This time I'm talking to the community. Shame on us. Shame on us that that the council is discussing a nearly $400 million budget, and not a single person signed up to give public comment. That's not democracy. That's not what our community represents. And it's certainly it's on us as well. But at some point, as citizens, we have to take up the responsibility that citizenship holds. And so it's disappointing. Thank you.
Councilmember Burns.
Can't let us end on that note. I tried to, but I could not. Especially because I'm really proud that, and Councilman Reed knows this, so I'm not criticizing him at all, and I think what he's saying still stands. But in addition to that, I am proud of the fact that this council created the Finance and Budget Committee that meets on a monthly basis. And even before I was in office, I was an observer of council business, and I can tell you many of the people that have historically been interested in the budget have found the Finance and Budget Committee a new home. And they attend on a regular basis and they participate there. And then also we have several joint budget meetings coming up. I know 2, 5, and 8, I believe we're doing a joint budget meeting, and I anticipate that many people from our wards will participate there. So I just wanted to say that as an add-on, not to conflict with what was just said, but as an add-on. Thank you.
Councilmember Kelly.
So there's no presentation?
Correct.
Okay, it's just an opportunity to ask questions based on, okay. I
Correct.
guess then I have a lot of specific questions, which I guess I could also hold off until tomorrow night at Finance and Budget. One question is.
Yeah, I mean, let me just say, budget staff is here and available to answer any questions. There's, in addition to the Finance and Budget Committee meeting tomorrow night, there's likely to be a special city council meeting a week from today that will include, I would expect, a presentation from staff. For instance, as you know, as a result of the last council meeting, there was a survey sent to council members about their openness to various different options. And I think we'll be hearing back on the results of that survey and what that might, what opportunities that might present for subsequent revisions to the budget before passage. But again, budget staff is here tonight as well if folks have questions.
Okay. I'd like to point out some good news that I noticed in the proposed budget, that there is a reduction in the levy for the police and fire pension fund. Yet there is an increase in the IMRF, and I wanted to, a big increase. I think it's let's see, it's a 44% increase. And I just wanted to get some understanding as to why, if that's based on the audit, or if it's with the 22 numbers, or if it's based on the 23 GASB numbers.
Good evening, Mayor, the members of the City Council. So first, public safety pension, the levy, police and fire pension levy has overall gone up by $4.5 million, from 25 million to 29 million. IMRF levy has gone up from somewhere around under $1 million to $1.5 million. And this is, we get the rates from the IMRF. It has nothing to do with the auditors, who are your auditors, or based on our history. And one of the things which I noticed, the rate has gone up because of the, not the normal cost, which is the value of the current employees' future cost, but because of the smoothing which happens over the 5 years. So last year, the smoothing helped us, IMRF as a whole, in reducing the rate. But this time, that smoothing has still favorable, so that it reduces the normal cost, but it is not as good as the last year. So that's why the rate has gone up.
Thank you. And does the IMRF rely on the numbers from our audit?
No, they have their own actuary. Foster and Foster is their actuary for the IMRF.
But
And-
their numbers that they get, because I noticed that in the 22 the numbers that we used in our audit for 23.
Right, we use the numbers from IMRF audit. They don't depend on our audit because
Okay.
we report them monthly, our salaries and wages and whatnot.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay, because they did have a surplus in 23, so I was with a fund that's over 100% funded to see a 44% increase in that line item. Just needed some clarification. I'll reach out to IMRF on that. Thank you. Then I had some questions about the reporting on the levy. I noticed that in our budget, we reference rather than the gross, we're referencing the net levy. On page 13, we're only seeing the net levy, not the gross levy. And because of the allowable loss, there is a difference. And what we are charging taxpayers is, in fact, the gross levy.
Yes, we always budgeted net levy because in the past, we had a few years where we collected less than 100%. So obviously, we like to be on the conservative side instead of budgeting the gross levy. And we have been consistent like that. And one more thing about the loss factor. Last year, I think Finance and Budget Committee asked us to reduce the loss factor. So accordingly, this year's levies are there with the reduced loss factor.
Right, but when we list the levy, what we will be charging, we should be listing our gross levy based on the allowable loss percent that we all agreed to.
Right, we extend that, but it's not certainty that we will get that. That's the problem. So that's why we budget the net levy.
But that's what we're charging taxpayers is based on the gross, not the net.
I mean, as I said, in the past, we collected less than 100%. Even though we extended, say, 5 million, we collected 4.9 million.
I know, but what we're charging in our budget is the gross levy. Just for the I mean, that is what what our budget is, and that's why I just think we should be transparent about what we are in fact levying. We're levying at the gross that includes an allowable loss, and I think that should be transparently presented.
It's not. We give the numbers to. We are not charging directly to the. Out of that, like hundreds of people, or commercial or otherwise, somebody may not pay it, and it's beyond our control, the county's control, and we may not get it. And that's why I said, in the past, there have been few years where we collected 97%, 98%.
Sure. But we charge, we do add on. Some cities don't at all, and it is something that we are charging. And, here I notice on page 21, we list the gross levy, we list the loss factor, and then we put the total as in the net levy. I think those should be reversed. It should first be the net levy, the loss factor, and then the gross levy. Just like anything else we're charging. We don't know if we'll get the full levy or not, but that is what we're charging in the budget. That gross levy is the amount that we're levying, and that's what should be presented. We don't have to add any allowable loss at all.
I mean, it's the city council decides, yeah. But
Right, no,
the
but-
thing is, if, particularly like say debt service levy, if we don't collect, like if I just put the net levy without loss factor, and if we collect 98%, that means extra $1.5 million less in the debt service. We still have to pay the fixed amount of debt. Yeah, that could come out of where? Is it coming out of general funds? So the council has to consider that. But yeah, it's a reasonable loss factor, and that's why Cook County allows those for the debt
Right.
service.
I'm not arguing the loss factor. I'm just arguing that it should be presented transparently what we're charging on the levy.
I mean, we can change next year if we want. We can put the gross levy there,
Okay, thank you.
Add too, next week is the Truth and Taxation public hearing where you'll see the ordinances. The ordinances list the gross levy. Our budget lists the gross levy. We only budget for the net levy, but our ordinances will show the gross levy as well. So when you adopt the ordinance, you'll be adopting that gross levy.
The gross levy.
Correct.
Okay, just so that's clear. Thank you. And then just a question, just looking at the most recent quarterly cash and investment report, which does have, which ended, I think this is from September 30th, with almost about $170 million. Can you tell us ballpark how much of that cash and investment is encumbered?
That is the cash as of now. So, I mean, I don't know the income. That's a separate thing. But that's the cash we have right now as of September 30th, yes. And this is a high number, couple of things. Obviously, we issued the bonds like a couple of months ago where we got $34 million. The other thing is the property tax money. All money came in 100% by September. But this would be a dry spell now for the next 4 or 5 months, October, November, December, January, and February. Then we start getting money late February for the new levy. So obviously we have to consider that we will be spending the money, but there won't be any new cash like a bond
Sure.
issue or property tax.
Right. It's just, I notice in every year, usually between the end of the third quarter report to the end of the year, there's about an $8 million on average decrease to the year-end balance. So this is a dramatic increase. If you look at 21, it was, 114 million at this point. Now it's 170 million. So that's a significant increase. It would be helpful to know from that how much of that is encumbered.
I mean,
But
you would see, yeah,
you can write that to
encumbered
me.
means, yeah, I mean, we issued like half of the money, for the, out of 34, 17 million for general CIP, and the other half is the water project. So as the projects go on, the bills become due. So yeah, come spring and summer, you would see a lot of that use of
So,
that cash.
could I get an email on that about, could you report on that? How much of that, just so we know, of that 170 million?
You can ask the department,
Thank you.
yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. That's all for now. Thank you.
Hearing nothing further, I hereby adjourn this hearing. We now move to the city manager's public announcements.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. First of all, I'd like to welcome the men and women of Evanston Police Department for being here tonight. Thank you so much for making us proud every day. Appreciate your presence here tonight. With that, we'll shift gears to Chief Stewart, who's going to present the state of the EPD. She's 2 years and 2 weeks in, and she's here to present an update on all things Evanston Police Department. Welcome, Chief Stewart.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Mayor Biss, distinguished members of City Council, Clerk Mendoza, and City Manager Stowe. It's my pleasure and honor to again stand before you delivering the annual State of the Evanston Police Department. This year I will touch on a few of the same topics that were discussed last fall. The focus tonight will highlight crime trends, hiring, retention, a strategic plan, department successes over the last year, and a few topics near on the horizon. Unless otherwise noted, statistics this evening will be from October 1st, 2023 to September 30th, 2024. Reference to a prior year refers to October 1st, 2022 to September 20th, 2023. Total calls for service and police reports filed remain mostly unchanged. Service calls dropped by 0.4%, while reports filed by officers rose 1%, and reports filed online by community members declined by 1%. Property crime raised slightly, with 3% more incidents having been reported year over year. Reports of personal crime declined, again by 3%. Also of note, no homicides. You'll see a small increase in overall Group A crime reports, 2.6%. This is a result of property crime making up slightly more than 75% of the reported incidents in Evanston. Hiring. Since my appointment to Chief on October 10th, 2022, we've hired 35 sworn employees. Of those, 30 have successfully made it through the training program. In the 24 months prior, there were 13 hires, with 12 making it through the training. We currently have 17 vacancies, are slated to hire 8 in January 2025. We still have applicants going through our lateral police officer process. Retention. In the 24 months since October 10th, 2022, there have been 5 resignations of officers from the department, all of which occurred while still in training. In the 24 months prior, there were 21 resignations from EPD. Only 1 occurred during training. Previously, we were losing 10 trained officers per year to resignation, while only bringing in an average of 6 officers per year. Recently, we have successfully hired and trained 15 officers per year, while retaining all of our trained members. Obviously, these numbers do not include retirements, as it is difficult to accurately tell
if the motivation to retire is driven by work environment versus personal needs. With this additional staffing, EPD was able to increase assignments to the Investigative Services Division by 5 members, nearly 20%. I'd like to add that this is still a far cry from staffing levels previously seen in that division. I look back 5 years, and in 2019, EPD had 38 detectives, exclusive of supervisory personnel. Currently, their number is 26. At this time, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our Human Resources Department, Mary Donkwa and Casey Solomon in particular. They have pretty much done everything to put our hiring and retention at these numbers. I'd like to pause right now to give the HR department of the City of Evanston a round of applause. They've assisted with 2 promotional processes, both one for the rank of commander and for sergeant. Since the start of 2024, I've made 9 promotions total, 4 commanders, I think they're here right now, and 5 sergeants. Our ability to stabilize staffing and our successful retention focus facilitated this. Sergeant Seapill and Commander Brown on July 15th. Sergeant Shanice, Jones, Geesey, and Russ on April 22nd. Commander Sophia Carter and Korea on January 29th. Shortly after arriving in Evanston, I learned that EPD did not have an existing strategic plan, nor had it ever created one. I decided it would be beneficial to the organization to craft a plan to help guide the next several years. We succeeded in doing so and are nearly ready to release and implement it. An internal committee was formed, tasked with this project in addition to their regular assignments. This was at no cost to the city. I diversified it across rank, specialty, unit of assignments, and tenure to foster creativity and bring as many perspectives to the discussion as possible. Additionally, we drew information from a community survey we administered last fall. Separately, we surveyed our own workforce, looking for an honest self-assessment of the organization. Our strategic plan focuses on 4 key areas: crime reduction, community, the organization, and culture, intended to cover a 4 to 5 year span. The comprehensive document detailing the plan will be forthcoming in the near future. Would you believe me if I told you that as of 2023, EPD did not have specific computer software to document and track use of force incidents? OPS was still manually maintaining internal files for investigation. We've since contracted with Frontline Public Safety Solutions to assist with the management of those incidents and begin migrating to that platform earlier this year. This step will help organize information and increase overall efficiency case management. I want to highlight training. I cannot emphasize enough the importance of training in law enforcement. With the Safety Act, the state of Illinois took legislative action to reinforce this issue. As a department, we are well over the state minimum mandate for training hours, more than doubling it. I have highlighted several areas of focus and included the hours completed in each. Law updates, 3,000 hours. De-escalation and crisis-related incidents, approximately 2,300 hours. Use of force and tactics, over 1,800 hours. Critical incident response management, approximately 1,700 hours. How have we transitioned to being a better trained police force? We utilize a 2-pronged approach to training, being mindful of the subject matter and how to effectively present material. You can see a breakdown of some of the training topics and also if the material is presented in roll call setting or a longer, more in-depth training session. I want to take a moment and highlight one of the topics from the previous slide, rapid deployment. We have a collection of officers who have extensive training, experience, and passion for this type of incident response. Special thanks to them for taking the initiative to plan and implement department training for all members. We expanded our rapid deployment training in 2024, increasing it from 1 8-hour training department-wide to 2 sessions totaling 12 hours. I also need to thank District 65, District 202 for making facilities available to us to carry out these sessions and make the training as realistic as possible. Additionally, with the assistance of District 202, we will be administering an ETHS Community Police Academy for students interested in law enforcement. We've introduced training to proactively address concerns related to autism, Alzheimer's, and dementia, even though these specific topics haven't greatly impacted our community as they have others. Personally, with 2 nephews who are autistic and nonverbal, I think all 3 are important to address. Earlier, I mentioned being able to allocate staff resources into the investigations division. That division primarily consists of the Detective Bureau, which gained 3 additional detectives, and the Special Operations Group, which has gained 2 detectives. For the next few minutes, I'm going to describe some of the excellent work this division has produced in the past year. Motor vehicle theft. Recall from last year's presentation that motor vehicle theft has risen into the Chicagoland area. Special Operations has participated in 5 multi-jurisdictional operations in the past year, resulting in 33 stolen vehicles recovered. They have taken 49 individuals into custody who were wanted on outstanding arrest warrants. They are responsible for 13 firearm recoveries, which includes 2 assault rifles. They've assisted with the arrest of 2 homicide suspects in Niles and Chicago. Additionally, a 3rd arrest for attempted homicide. They've conducted over 100 follow-up reviews of FOID holders and concealed carry permits to determine if revocation recommendations are appropriate. Special Operations also initiated and planned and implemented training for the fire department on rescue task force operations. Complaints by members of the community for drug dealing in a specific area were routed to Special Operations, which responded by conducting 2 narcotics investigations. 3 individuals were charged with narcotics offenses, multiple vehicles were seized, and a substantial quantity of narcotics and U.S. currency was recovered. In response to the complaints for prostitution and human trafficking, Special Operations initiated an investigation that resulted in 4 individuals being charged with sex-related offenses. Since the offense report from October 2023, detectives conducted a thorough investigation that resulted in 1 count of criminal sexual assault and 1 count of attempted aggravated criminal sexual abuse. Armed robbery report from December 2023. This was 1 incident, however, multiple reports of similar occurrences had been received. An investigation led to an arrest and charge of an armed robbery. Sex offense report from February 2024. Detectives were able to identify an offender locating video footage. Further investigation efforts, surveillance, interviews, and legal process allow for charges to be filed against the offender for criminal sexual abuse. Shots fired reports from July 2024. Camera footage confirmed that an offender discharged a handgun 4 times. Evidence of such was located in addition to further video footage. Charges were approved for aggravated discharge of a weapon. Shots fired reports from August 2024. Responding officers located 2 shooting victims from the incident. Multiple pieces of evidence were located to include a vehicle and firearm, as well as multiple subjects being taken into custody. A thorough investigation continued involving witnesses, interviews, and video surveillance collected and review. 2 individuals have already been charged with unlawful use of a weapon. Shots fired report from August 2024. Officers located a victim with a gunshot wound. Camera footage of the offender fleeing the area of the incident was discovered. Follow-up investigation and interviews allowed the detectives to identify the offender and subsequently file charges for attempted first-degree murder. North Half Burglary Task Force. 3 offenders involved in a string of armed robberies, one of which occurred in Evanston, were arrested. Detectives from the Investigations Division participated in the task force, helping to bring an end to the crimes that occurred in multiple jurisdictions. Looking ahead for next year, EPD is upgrading technology by contracting with Tyler Technologies to roll out advanced CAD 911 software and also improved records management tools. This is a complex and long-term project already underway. We anticipate migrating to the new platform by next summer. EPD will continue to collaborate with the CARE team for community well-being. Assisting will focus on nuisance complaints such as check well-being, loss of confused persons, mental health situation, public service needs. Impact of this is providing rapid, specialized responses to create a safer, more responsive community. Remembrance and acknowledgements. Chief William H. Logan, Jr. EPD wants to acknowledge the passing of former Evanston Police Chief William H. Logan, Jr. Chief Logan was not only the first black chief of police in Evanston, but also a pioneering leader whose legacy will live on. Chief Logan dedicated his life to public service, demonstrating unwavering commitment, integrity, and leadership throughout his career. He broke barriers and opened doors for many, a door that I walked through 35 years after his retirement. As a founding member, Chief Logan was instrumental in creation of development of the National Organization for Black Law Enforcement Executives, NOBLE. Also FAM. Chief Logan demonstrated what it means to build connections and a legacy. He remained a leader impacting lives positively while serving as a head of security at ETHS after retiring from law enforcement. His loss has been deeply felt by all who had the privilege of knowing him. The Honorable Dolores Holmes. Dolores Holmes was a pillar of the Evanston community, dedicating decades of her life service to advocacy and lifting others. Her legacy began long before her tenure on the Evanston City Council. Holmes co-founded Family Focus, a nonprofit dedicated to supporting children and families, where she served as director for 27 years. Her work at Family Focus changed countless lives, offering both practical resources and compassionate support for families in need. Holmes transitioned into political role in 2005, when she became the Alderwoman of Evanston's 5th Ward, a position she held until her retirement in 2017. Serving 3 terms, she consistently advocated for underrepresented voices and pushed for initiatives that would benefit youth, families, and the community. One of her most notable achievements on the council was the expansion of the Mayor's Summer Youth Employment Program, an initiative she believed could provide life-changing opportunities for Evanston's youth. Holmes also played a pivotal role in establishing the city's Youth and Young Adult Division, which focused on providing resources and support to the community's young residents. Even after stepping down from her council seat, she remained active in the Evanston community, known for her warmth and kindness. She was a source of strength and support to countless people, and her passing leaves a profound void in the lives of those who loved her. As Evanston mourns the loss of Dolores Holmes, her legacy remains a guiding force. Her impact will be felt for generations as her life's work continues to inspire new leaders and advocates to follow in her footsteps. Holmes' legacy is a testament to the power of compassion, resilience, and an unwavering commitment to community. You will forever be remembered. It is with deep sadness that we announce the unexpected passing of retired Officer Kyle Benoit, a cherished member of the Evanston police family and the broader Evanston community. A proud graduate of Evanston Township High School, class of 1988, Kyle went on to serve the city of Evanston for over 22 years, leaving a lasting impact on his colleagues and the many community members he worked to protect. His retirement occurred on Michael Jordan Day, 2/23/23. Today we honor him for his courage, dedication, and the joy he brought to those around him. Kyle will be remembered as a beloved friend, husband, father, son, and so much more. Our thoughts are with his family during this difficult time. On behalf of the entire Evanston Police Department, we want to extend our deepest gratitude to City Manager Luke So. Your exceptional leadership and unwavering support, your behind-the-scenes efforts, throughout guidance and genuine care, have been instrumental to our success through 2024. enabling us to focus on your priorities that have significantly impacted our community. Accomplishment over the years, which we showcase, are a testament to your vision and leadership. I look forward to maintaining this positive momentum as we work toward goals you set for 2025 and beyond. And there are a lot of goals. You can slow down on those. Your forward-thinking approach and dedication to the well-being of the Evanston community continues to inspire us, and me in particular. I am honored to serve under your leadership as we tackle new challenges and remain committed to protecting and serving our community. I know, Harris, I am a crybaby. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chief Stewart. Chief, it's a privilege to work with you each and every day. And as I often say, your transformative leadership has not only made Evanston Police Department a better place, you make the entire city of Evanston a better place. Thank you so much.
Councilmember Harris, for the rebuttal.
Yes, you beat me to the crybaby stuff, but that's okay. I am very appreciative of your leadership and your team. I think the team knows that. We couldn't do it without you, all of you. While you have a leader, again, great leaders make leaders. They don't keep that power to themselves. And the numbers show that. And while crime is crime, and I was trying to pull up the Law and Order little dun dun dun, and I couldn't get it quick enough, so it's okay. You're doing the right thing, and you're showing people what the right thing looks like. I am appreciative of that, because besides you and fire, when somebody shoots, the rest of us run. When a fire is happening, the rest of us run the other way. And you all step up and you put your life at risk. You jeopardize your family's forward movement to help residents and visitors of this community. So I appreciate that, and you do it with honor and valor. Very rarely are we here to talk about the wrong things that have happened in Evanston. So we are a beacon, and I hope we continue. I know we will. I'm not even going to hope that. I know that we will. And I want to say I appreciate each and every one of you that allows me the opportunity to go to sleep at night knowing it will be okay. So thank you so much for that.
Councilmember Reed, followed by Burns.
Thank you. First, thank you, Chief Stewart, and thank you to the Evanston Police Department. I want to add my condolences to your loss of Officer Benoit. I do have a few questions, though. So, one, you noted that we have essentially double, 106%, 104%, the state minimum, more than the state minimum number of training hours. One, I'm curious, how did we get to that number? One, I think it's a great thing. I'm glad that we're spending so much time training, but I'm just curious to dive into that a bit more. So how did we determine that was our standard?
Those topics?
And we'll go with the topics as well, but how did we determine that amount of training was our new standard? Is there more training that needs to be done? Should we be cutting back on training?
I think
Where do
you
you
can
think?
never stop training. I think we have the state mandates, which the state requires us to complete, or every officer to complete a certain amount of hours a year. We went above beyond. The exec staff team that's here, we felt like what we listed, law updates, de-escalation and crisis-related incidents, use of force tactics, and critical incident response management were things we wanted to focus on and double up and make sure we did that in training. And I think it goes to what you've seen in the last year. I'm not going to dive too much into our use of force, but I think we do enough force necessary to complete the tasks. We're not highlighted nationally for overuse of force, and I think a focus has been what needs to be, what's best for this community. So those were the pretty much 4 topics I thought that we should devote more time to, even though it wasn't a mandate.
Yeah, thank you for that. So 2 questions that I have in follow up with that. How does our training regimen compare to other police departments nearby or comparable cities? Do we have that metric?
Do not have that metric, but if you give me a year, no, I'm messing with. If you give me a little time, I'll look into it.
Yeah, no, and
I could get back to you. I can try to pull. It'll be just a little tough. Some similar size agencies,
Yeah.
which wouldn't be around here, and follow up with you on that.
Okay, because I'm just curious how, obviously there's the state minimum. We talked about this earlier with the budget. State minimums aren't always, shouldn't be the benchmark. So I'm just curious how this stacks up to other communities, whether we're doing more or less. And then I'm also curious when did this training regimen start, this increase in training? Is this new to this year? Has this been going on for a couple of years?
So we have a training sergeant. We have changed training sergeants, but I think having a sergeant dedicated to not only the mandates, but what we can do, we've been able to look at, and they've been able to have more control over the scheduling to send people to some of these trainings. We also have train the trainer and have a lot of in-house trainers that have allowed us to complete a lot of this training.
But is this is this level of training new to this year, or has this been going on for a few years?
I would say this data is over the year period, this increase.
Okay. Oh, so the 104% increase is an increase over last year, or is that an increase over what the state minimum is? My apologies.
There's a state minimum. We pretty much doubled the state minimum.
Okay. And I'd be curious to know how that training compares to last year, the last few years, whether, what the increase has been. And then to tie up on the training hours, you mentioned use of force. So how has this, let's just presume that what you'll get back to me and say is that this is new and that we're doing more training than we've ever done before. How has this impacted use of force? How has this impacted the number of complaints that are filed? Or what are the metrics? We're doing this new training. So because we're doing this new training, what are the metrics that we're looking for that tell us that this new training is working?
Additional training.
Or
Go ahead.
additional training, yeah. So we're doing this additional training. What are the metrics that we're looking for to determine whether this training is paying off?
I would dive into OPS, some of our use of forces, some of the opportunities we had to de-escalate situations, to have to get back with you on that.
Okay. Yeah, I'd love to see how this has impacted those numbers. And then lastly, with the crime statistics, there were we saw that overall crime was up a small percentage, and that crime against persons is down, but property crime was up again by, I think, 3%. So what do you think these trends are telling us? Is that essentially, given, if you look at a year over year, is that essentially remaining flat, because there's, maybe small variations in, the number of crimes that are reported versus the number of crimes that occur? So what do you think this data is telling us?
You lost.
Is it statistically relevant that crime went up by 1% in some areas and down by 3% in other areas, or are we pretty much seeing something level? Is there something to look into with this data that's just not apparent from seeing 3% up in one area and 3% down in another?
I think the data is the data. I don't know. I guess I'd say I'm proud of the data. We didn't have any homicides, but when it comes to some of those crimes, that's what it is.
How does this maybe compare with national averages, or?
I didn't pull the national numbers.
Okay. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
Councilmember Burns.
I just also want to echo, have the utmost confidence in your leadership, Chief Stewart. So it's been a pleasure to work alongside you. And to our Evanston police officers, it's a tough job. you know, because it's like no matter how many good things you do and how many people you help, at some point you're going to be the cause of somebody's bad day. It's just how it is, right? And I did a ride along with the parking enforcement officers and same kind of thing, right? It's like they're going to be somebody's bad day at some point. I watched a barnacle get put on a car, and the parking enforcement officer like went back to the car to write up a report. And I was like, if that was me, I would have drove like 2 or 3 blocks away first, because I'm not trying to be there when somebody comes back and sees this big yellow thing on their car. But it's a tough job because of that. We know you're out here doing tremendous work, but we know the job comes with a lot of criticism. But all that aside, I think it's important that you know, at least from this council, that we appreciate you. We want you here in Evanston. We appreciate that you're here in Evanston. If for people who may be watching, if you transfer from another place, thank you. We want you here. We want to continue to recruit good police officers here in Evanston. I think it's important that y'all hear that from us up here. Using that as a segue, how are we doing how are you feeling, Chief, about our ability to recruit? I think you said we have 17
We have 17 vacancies. We intend on hiring 8 for the academy, but we're still getting applicants for lateral positions here. They're going through the process, so I'm feeling good. I want to mention something real quick. Our PD has had a difficult 2024, and the men and women of this organization have done an exceptional job. And I think that should be applauded. Nothing else. We go above and beyond for training. We go above and beyond to deal with this community. And I don't want that missed from no one. No offense, but to be proactive in training, to be proactive the way we do it, I think we're doing a hell of a job.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. And I'm trying to see if I want to stay on that. And so in terms of, we've had some increases in shots fired calls in the ward, as you know. And so in terms of, gunshot victims, homicides, I think you mentioned homicides in the report, but how are we doing in those two categories?
We did not have one homicide in this time frame.
Okay.
Which was different from a year previous. I know Deputy Chief Russell went to your ward meeting. He'll be going to Councilmember Harris tomorrow. We've been trying to stay proactive. We've made a lot of proactive arrests in that area regarding aggravated discharge of weapons, unlawful use of a weapon, and we'll continue to do that to try to avoid any casualties.
And do you know if we've had any gunshot victims during that same time period?
We had the situation over at Dempster and Dodge.
Okay.
Are you talking specifically to your ward?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, in the 5th ward, that's what I meant.
Not that I know of, not that I know of.
And then also just want to compliment Officer Howard. I don't know if he's here, but so since early on in my term, Officer Howard, and this was his idea, and I gladly supported this idea, we do Officer Spotlight every 5th Ward meeting. And so it's been, it's something that my colleagues may want to add to their ward meetings, but it's given us an opportunity to meet the folks that suit up for us every day and to get to know them on a personal level, which has been incredibly beneficial for myself, but also I think our constituents who joined the meeting. So I just wanted to shout Officer Howard out, as well as that segment of our ward meeting. I think I got one more. And then
Councilmember, I believe that's had an impact, because sometimes we'll get complaints and they're asking for specific officers. If it's not Howard, it's someone they've met during the ward meetings.
That's great. That's good to hear. And then also, so, including the 17 patrol officers, do you feel the police department has enough to do the job?
No.
That we still don't have enough?
No.
Okay.
I need to fully staff our specialized units. I touched on it a little bit with our detective unit right now, but our specialized units are not fully staffed right now. So when I say the men and women of the organization are doing an exceptional job, we've been short-staffed since I've been here, and they've been doing everything in specialized units to be proactive, make good arrests, but also make positive impact in this community.
And are those positions that we haven't allocated to the department, or are they just we're still trying to hire for those
They're
those
already
positions?
allocated. I'm trying to fill those vacancies. The
Right.
sooner I can fill those vacancies, the sooner I can put people in the specialized units.
And so that was my question. But if you were to fill all the remaining 17 vacancies, you feel like that is enough to do the job that we expect of our police
If you want to give me
department?
11 more, I'm a little greedy. I'll take it. But yeah.
Yeah. And the reason why I'm saying that is because, and this is the last thing I'll say is we found a way in Evanston to continue to have, I think a police department, if you look at our population size, that has the resources it needs to do the work. But in addition to that, and this also has to do with the budget, which is why I always challenge people. If there are some budget cuts that you think we can make, if you think we can cut ourselves to a balanced budget, I challenge you to name what are we going to cut, because alongside the fact that I think we have a police department that has the resources it needs, we also have a youth and young adult development team that is contributing a lot to making this community safe. You don't see all the interactions from your end. All you see is the headline. But there's people, 9 people in our youth and young adult development team, family services team, who are at every single day supporting youth, interacting with families, trying to support them, identify what their needs are, and supporting them. And so that's probably well over $1 million, maybe close to $2 million program now in the city. And then we also just added our care team, which in the way I've described it, there are some calls that our emergency responders, which is our police officers, have to deprioritize because they have more higher priority calls that they need to address. And now that we have our care team, the calls that might be deprioritized by our police department are now prioritized by our care team. And although those are low level issues, those issues can escalate if they go unaddressed. And so now they're addressed with our care team. So my point is that if you look at what the city has put forth to try to make this community safe, we're doing a whole lot. And I think at this point, it's just making sure that we can fill the vacant positions, of course, but kind of continuing to work it. Our care team is still new. They're in the back, for those who don't know, in the maroon shirts. You'll see them out in the white cars driving around. But that's why I asked, is because I think we've contributed a whole lot to trying to keep this community safe, and appreciate the report. And I think we're headed in the right direction.
And I know Jerron's going to come over here and do a presentation with the care team. One of the goals the city manager has is working collaboratively together. And I think we're doing a good job. I think as many resources we can throw at the community to get positive change, I think is in the right direction. So thank you for bringing that up, Councilman.
That's all, Mayor. Thank you.
Councilmember Hedekadis, followed by Nusma.
Chief Stewart, I want to echo what a lot of my colleagues have said. Thank you for your leadership. I sleep a lot better knowing that you're heading up the department. And I wanted to highlight some of the good work you've done in retaining officers. I know prior to you arriving, we had a lot of folks transferring out, and it seems like we have good news. It was good to hear the hiring news that we're retaining staff, and we have more people in the pipeline. When we talk about the 17 officers short that we are, and I know retirements are really hard to predict, right? But does that seem like a number that we can close the gap this year, or is that like a 1 or 2 year goal? Or I don't want to put you on the spot, but
You're not.
just
My
curious.
Deputy Chief Wright, I've been putting pressure on him since I got the job. We're looking possibly early next year. No pressure, Deputy Chief Wright. Yes, we are working on it. The 8 we're going to try to get more than 8, to be quite honest. I'm going to be having a conversation with one of the academies on Wednesday about giving us additional more positions there. And as we get laterals in that pass our background with our standards, we'll continue to add them to the force. Don't want to rush it, but again, we're looking for good quality people to come into this city.
Great. Thank you. That's good news. And I just also want to acknowledge that, you folks being short-staffed, there's a lot, I know it's long hours and overtime, and just want to say my thanks. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Councilmember Nusma.
Thank you. And again, thank you, Chief, and thank you, Deputy Chiefs, Commanders, and everybody else at EPD. Picking up where Councilmember Hakatis left off, how are we doing on overtime for this year? And
I don't have the numbers. I know we're going to have our overtime will be high. You have to take into account all the special events we had, all the officers right here working city council. Every time we have a city council meeting, all that goes to overtime. It'll probably be high. I am on a positive note. They always show up when they need to. We've assisted Northwestern. We've assisted other jurisdictions that it could have turned into spillover. We've assisted on Howard Street to ensure we have personnel there to not have crime in our town. And so it may be high, but there'll be a conversation. I'm not going to have a problem with City Manager Stowe on.
and just to clarify, you said early next year we'll be at full staff, and that's not.
I hope to. Don't.
Or does that mean early 2025, or we're talking about budget
We're talking
year?
into, yes, 2025. I'm hoping to get it. But again, I can't predict individuals that might not make it through our background process. We have a lot of people that put in to come here as candidates and laterals. It's a matter of vetting them.
Given the fact that we are still short, are you still working 2 12-hour shifts? I'm sorry, 12-hour shifts?
Yeah, we are, me included.
You included. Okay, so when we are fully staffed, what's the plan to go back to regular shift rotation?
I think we'll take a look at it as an executive team. We'll sit down, take a look at that, and see how it'll be based on a lot of deployments, a lot of things that are going on within the city, what we can do. I don't want to jump and say we're going to do something. And it'll be a conversation I'll have with the collective bargaining agreement and the union.
Right. And does that impact retention? I have to imagine it would be more fun to work shorter shifts.
I think it depends how old you are. I don't know. I've looked at some surveys and some studies, and it depends a lot around age sometimes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, no one is asking to speak for the first time, so we go back to Councilmember Reed.
I just want to clarify, because I feel as though just almost any time I'm speaking to the police department that there's some kind of misunderstanding. In no way was I questioning the amount of training or saying that the department was doing too much training. I just want to be clear on that, because I feel as though that might have been, in my questions might have been interpreted that way. I support the training and probably want to see more training, if possible. But I am just curious, and I think in next year's report, I'd just love to see comparisons to other jurisdictions, and specifically what the department thinks we're getting out of the training. What are the metrics that you're using to say that the training is doing what it's supposed to do? So that was where my questioning was coming from. Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying, and we'll make sure we do that for next year.
Well, I thought you were just going to end it. We're doing a hell of a good job. That was the mic drop moment. And I think there's a lot of people in this room who agree with you and appreciate the work that you do, the culture change that you've effectuated in the department personally, and the remarkable work that the folks who work for you do every day. So thank you to all.
Thank you, Mayor. And with that, I want to also, this is very intentional on our part, we want to invite the CARE team up to offer a presentation. I believe Deputy Director Dorsey has a short presentation. I want to take a moment to say thank you to Chief Stewart and Commander Sophia, and the entire Evanston Police Department for their support and partnership with the CARE team.
Giving out hugs. Let me get one. Good job.
welcome Deputy Director Dorsett.
Thank you. Okay, thanks. Good evening, Mayor, City Manager, City Clerk, and City Council. Jerron Dorsey, Deputy Director of Parks and Recreation and Community Services. Just wanted to provide a brief update tonight in regards to the CARE program. So, unlike the police department, we don't have a year's worth of data to share. This is actually our 91st day of responding. So as promised early on in the process that we will provide updates and reevaluate the program every 90 days. Yesterday was our 90th day and today is our first day after that. So we have made a few slight changes since then that I, will share with you all tonight. First, I wanted to start by thanking, the 4 responders that we have. These individuals have been tremendous, very flexible, they're very compassionate, and they're very engaging with the community. And what we've learned, since we are not, police officers or firefighters, that first responders have a very tough job, and these individuals have stepped up to the plate and kind of learned on the fly. And through partnerships with the police department and the fire department, who have gave us a tremendous amount of support, kind of bringing us along with this type of response. I just wanted to personally thank those responders in the police department and the fire department for their support. I also want to thank Director Thompson and City Manager Stowe for your support with the program, and also the City Council for prioritizing a program like this. I think what we've seen over the first 90 days is that the community really enjoys having this program and this service available to them. And what we are going to continue to do is build the program out in a way that is best for this community that we're here to serve. And so just wanted to share those thank yous before I get started with the presentation. So as part of one of our goals in our first 90 days, we wanted to create a vision and mission statement that kind of guides our work. So our vision statement that we came up with is to proactively engage with community members, building positive and strong relationships that foster trust and understanding. Our mission statement is to raise awareness of the program and work collaboratively with community partners to address and meet the needs of both individuals and the community as a whole, ensuring a compassionate, holistic approach to care and support. And also, I will be remiss if I missed this. I also wanted to send my condolences to former Councilmember Holmes, who has played a tremendous role in my life growing up in the Fifth Ward. From Family Focus to her house on McDaniel. She's had a very tremendous impact on my life. And so I just wanted to share that as well. So currently we're still responding to 10 call types that you see here on the screen. So that's nuisance complaint, check well-being, panhandler, vagrant, lost confused person, leaf blower violation, city ordinance violation, miscellaneous public service, mental subject, and soliciting complaint. So here are how our calls broke down by the month. Starting in July, the first couple of days that we started in July, we responded to 8 calls. Through the month of August, we responded to 157 calls. The month of September, we responded to 151 calls. And as of yesterday, for the month of October, we responded to 141 calls, totaling 454 calls. So this is a breakdown of our calls so basically what you'll see here, our number 1 call that we respond to is check well-being. That's 35% of the calls that we respond to. The second will be nuisance complaint at 14.1%, and then mental subject, which is at 12.7%. This is very hard for you all to see, but this will be included in the packet. So what this data is breakdown is the calls by hours. And so what you'll see here is care team calls on the top, Evanston Police Department calls on the bottom, but these are all calls that are eligible for care response. And so right now, since our team is only responding through the 1 to 10 p.m. time frame, there's a lot of calls that you'll see there that the police is still covering that are care eligible calls. And so that totals out to 454 calls for the care team and 599 care calls that the police department has responded to when we were either not on shift or we were tied up on other calls. The highest call volumes we have are between 11 a.m. and 8 p.m. And the time that we see the most responses from a care perspective is 4 p.m. In the afternoon. And our calls range between 15 minutes, and the longest call we've had, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, has been about 3.5 hour call. And so I just want everyone to understand that these calls that we go to, unlike the police, that they have to get to the next call, our calls are not an emergency. So we want to spend as much time with the person in this crisis as possible. And so sometimes calls go hours and hours, and to make sure that we're providing the appropriate level of support. So based off this data, as far as care eligible calls, the care team is responding to 43% of the calls, and EPD is still responding to 57% of those care calls. So initially, early on, when we started responding, there was an understanding that we would just be responding to calls and doing soft handoffs to other organizations. Well, that has not been very true, because, of course, we are very compassionate with the work that we do. And so just running into an individual who's having a tough time and just handing them off to another organization does not feel like always the best approach. So we have taken on some case management. And so we have followed up with 71 individuals, and that's just an initial call to 71 individuals. But the follow up goes sometimes days or weeks or months, however long it needs, the person needs that support. Next slide. So a little bit about our community engagement. So on Tuesdays, we do Outreach Tuesdays, which is one team is designated towards straight community outreach. So they're in the downtown area. They're in the different wards. They're meeting with the business owners. They're meeting with the residents in that area just to get the program out there into the community more. And then as far as community events that we have, been a part of over the last 90 days, there's a list there. Peer Services Set Up for Recovery Fair, Connections, Twigs Park Block Party, the Fire Department Emergency Preparedness Fair, Evanston Own It, Praise in the Park Fair, Recreation Department Back to School Event, the Robert Crown Tea and Talk, the Evanston Mashup, Parks and Recreation Special Events, community partner meetings, ward meetings, Starlight concerts, National Night Out, and community block parties. So over the 90 days, we have completed additional training that is in addition to the training that we were required to do to get our crisis responder certification. So those new trainings that we have obtained is human sex trafficking training, dementia friendly training, suicide prevention certification, and neurodiversity inclusion and accessibility training, which we have tomorrow. So in terms of resources, connections, so we have joined the Alternative Mobile Services Association, which is a national organization who collaborates with crisis units all across the United States. So with this membership, we're able to access the monthly virtual talks with expert speakers. We get information about state and federal funding sources, and we have weekly online newsletters that's basically shared with different communities across the United States. As well as they have a yearly training that we can attend virtually or go in person as well. And so we're looking forward to finding out more about that. Director Thompson and I will be serving as panelists on the Justice Center Council of State Governments webinar to share more about the development of the Evanston Care program. And that's on a national level. So we're very looking forward to have that in December, and think, what we find out is there are other communities all across the world that's trying to get an alternative response program, and Evanston is kind of leading that work, and doing that. And so now we have a lot of communities that's reaching out to us and wanting to learn more about how we develop the program, and then what are we learning as we continue to go on. In the next coming weeks, we have a meeting with the Chicago Care team to share resources and ideas. The Chicago Care team found out about the Evanston Care program and wanted to learn more about it through our membership as part of the Alternative Mobile Service Association. So that's just an example of how other communities see the work that we're doing, and then they reach out, or we reach out to kind of share resources as we are trying to do the same work. We have ongoing conversations with educational institutions like District 65, District 202, and Northwestern to find out how we better can support their school districts. We've been collaborating with Downtown Evanston to help address quality of life issues, and we have been collaborating with Smurf organizations known as Albany Care and Greenwood Care to find out how we can better support them and their needs for their residents, also their neighbors in the area. So we are doing a lot of connecting with resources over the next 90 days to kind of build our portfolio out more, so that if we have any issues and we don't have answers, we have other organizations that we can reach out to for that information. So this has remained the same. You can reach the care team by calling 911-311, police non-emergency number, or you can engage with us during our community engagement. For the second phase of this program, originally our hours was from 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. Based on the data and individuals in the community who have expressed that they've wanted to utilize the care team prior to 1 p.m. It's best based off the data in that we move our hours of operations to 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. Again, we are constantly evaluating the data, so that may change in the future, but right now, starting today, those are our new hours of operation. So in the next 90 days, we are looking at exploring additional call types. So we'll be working with the police department to kind of wrap our brains around what more call types can the care team take on. We'll continue to collect and analyze the data to determine the need to expand the program. As you all know, we have 4 responders who are covering an entire city. And, as you can see, the police department is still responding to the majority of the calls because we have 4 staff. And so it's important for us to analyze the data to see how we can grow as a team. And then we'll continue building relationships with the community members, business owners, the police department, the fire department, and you all as city officials to make the program the best it can be. Any questions?
Councilmember Reed, followed by Burns, followed by Newsmith, followed by Hirakaris.
Thank you. A second welcome to the team. So real excited about the first 90 days. I get to catch the team coming in and out of the building quite often. So my first thing is, it seems that you respond thus far to about 150 calls per month, I'll just say. So we're looking at over 1,800 calls for service by the end of the year, and that's assuming that rate remains the same, which hopefully it actually increases as more and more folks become familiar with the program. Are there plans in the 2025 budget to expand the team? It seems like there's a need, and I think we should start setting that funding aside.
Sure, and I'll let Deputy Director Dorsey add to this if you'd like, but we felt in consultation with Director Thompson as well, we'd like to have 6 to 9 months of data before we make more definitive decisions about coming back to council and asking for an expansion of the care team. So once we have some additional data, our thought process would be come back perhaps in the spring for a budget amendment if that's necessary.
Thank you. Outside of the data that you presented, what have you learned? What is something what is a key takeaway from your experience? And also, are you, as the director, do you also sometimes have to go out in the field? Or?
Absolutely. So I'm a certified responder as well. Luckily, the team they not taking too many vacations, so I haven't spent as much time out in the field. But yes, I am able and have responded as well.
And I'm just curious, what's something you didn't tell us today that you think was a lesson, or maybe someone from the team has something that they've.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, and I'll invite anyone up to add to this, I think what we've learned the most over the first 90 days is that this is tough work. You know, I think a lot of people, especially when you see an individual in crisis, whether it be, you know, an unhoused individual, is a tendency for people just to walk past those individuals, and it kind of contributes more to their decline. And so our goal has been to engage with all of those individuals. And so we're not responding to just calls that come through 911 or 311. We are actively in the community, and when we see things, we address things. And so I think what we learned is that a situation where you can bring the resources to someone that won't necessarily know how to find the resources or where to find the resources, I think that's been very unique, and you kind of don't see that. You know, a lot of time when people need resources, they come and seek resources, but we're bringing resources to them. And so I think that we've learned that we have to go outside of just waiting on our radios to go off. We can be more if we just go out and proactively engage with the community. So I would say that's one thing.
And are those interactions documented somehow, or is that a part of your statistics here?
Yeah, so a lot of the statistics that we have here comes directly from the CAD, but we have our own documentation system as well, where we document every single call that we go on, and just so that we can go back, and when we follow up with individuals, we kind of have the history of dealing with that individual.
But was that in your day? So, for example, you said month by month there was like 150 calls, but that's not including the street interactions that were initiated by the team.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we have street interactions, those are called self-initiated calls, and so yeah, those will be
those will
be in the CAD data
okay.
because we call those in as we see them.
That's helpful. And to close out on, you mentioned several times it's tough work, and you mentioned specifically interacting with folks who are unhoused, and also mentioned the team having to kind of step into the caseworker role as well. So that makes me feel as though one, you're open 7 days a week, full time, at least 9 hours a day. I mean, thank you all for, I'm sure your schedules are rough. And so that, I just want to make sure that the team, just like our police department, you guys are seeing similar things, not the same, of course, but that you have like time off and time to be human and time to decompress and time to see your families and not have to bear this burden all the time, so you can continue to be the folks that we need you to be. And then also having to take on responsibility that is not yours, similar to what we're trying to alleviate from the police department. I'll say this to Manager Stowe, it makes me feel like we have to have something. I mean, we put him in Parks and Rec, but we have to have either on this team or supplementing this team someone who can take on that caseworker role, so the team can go out and be the care team and not be caseworkers. And I know the health department obviously has staff. And I guess my last question is, what do you think? It seems like part of the problem is the handoff to either outside agencies or internal agencies. Where's the seeming breakdown in communication, because you all are having to take on something that's not your role?
Well, I think what it is most time other organizations that we work with are hyper focused on one thing. So you may have mental health, or you may have connections for housing. And so a lot of times the individuals that we run into, they need
wraparound services.
All wraparound services. And so that's the support that we provide. And not necessarily saying that the city is providing them all of those services, but we're doing the coordination of making sure that they follow up with Connections and Trilogy and Turning Point or whoever it may be, to make sure that at the end of the day, the problem is addressed, and not just we helped you one day, we seen you, and now we just go off. Because if we hand off some of these things to other organizations, we're not that sure about how that's going to turn out, and we really got a vested interest in that. And so we've kind of been taking on the case management due to that.
And how do you all track cases? You know, if you're managing someone's case, what do you?
So we use a system called Apricot.
Okay.
And so it's a documentation system.
All right. Well, thank you for all of the work that you all do. Thank you.
Councilmember Burns, followed by Newsmith, followed by Hadakaris, followed by Ravel.
Dron, thank you for the report. Y'all are doing a great job. I wanted to start with, I think you mentioned that from the data, it shows that that police officers are still responding to a lot of the calls. Is that during work hours, or are you saying the time that the care team is off, that's when you see them having to take those calls? Because the care team, doesn't work those hours.
Yeah, so it's a little bit of mixture of both, but more so on the off hours. So sometimes, say for instance, if you have one care team on and that care team is tied up on a call and maybe they may have 2 other calls in the queue, instead of just piling all those calls in the queue, sometimes the police department would just step in and take those calls, depending on how long it's going to take us to clear our previous calls. But most of those calls, say for example, at like 10 o'clock and 11 o'clock at night, the calls start to rise again and the care team is not available.
Yeah.
And then sometimes through the midnight hours, those are more the times that they're responding until we return the next day.
The first scenario you described, how often does that happen? Is that what, if I saw this chart, would I be able to determine how often that happens where they're
responding during our times?
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. You will be able to see that from this chart.
Okay. And then could you give me a sense of how often that happens?
So I would say maybe based off this data, maybe 40 times, maybe
a month.
No, 40 times
total.
Like, so, yeah, exactly.
Okay, throughout the
times that we're there as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Throughout the 90 days, 40. You're saying?
Correct.
Okay. So I think the follow-up is incredibly important, whether that's done by the care, by what do we call them? What's the title of, I know it's a care team, but
crisis responders.
Crisis responders. There we go. But then there might be some other role, case management role that's developed. So I don't know who should be responding. One thing I will say is I think it's important within the care team that we have people doing follow-up work, because I mentioned that when Chief Stewart was doing her presentation, that to me, that's what's missing, right? What was missing is we have emergency responders, just like if you think about the emergency room, right? Like, or urgent care. Once they're done with you, what do they say? Okay, you need to go and see your primary care provider, right? And that's because they're trying to stabilize you in the moment, right? It's an emergency. They get on the scene. They're trying to stabilize you as quickly as they can. And then they have to go out and do that again, right? However many times the job demands. And that's what I think is most powerful about the care team, is that they can do the follow up, right? The next day and the next day if need be. And I think it's probably better that someone that, well, I was going to say, I think it's that the community responders are building the relationships. It's probably important that they use that rapport they built to then follow up and help people. But, I'm sure you could say a case manager that's working in an office could build that same rapport. But, if there's a way to maybe hire more people so we can, cover more calls, but do it in a way that still allows the people that initially established the relationship to continue to leverage that to help people. I think that's probably a good way to handle it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just add, Councilmember Burns, that our Youth and Family Service Division helps us out tremendously with that follow-up and case management. But as we know, they get inundated with work as well. And so it's kind of just trying to leverage all the resources we got. But I think the follow-up is very important, as you mentioned.
You mentioned 4 p.m. Peak hours. I was thinking there was going to be a range, but were you saying that after 4 are peak hours, or I missed that part?
So 4 p.m. was basically the highest call volumes for us based off the 90 days at 4. But if you're looking for more of a range, the range is between 11 to 8 p.m.
And within that time frame, is there a certain time where Okay, so that's where 4 p.m. So around 4 p.m., that's when you get the highest amount of calls within 11 to
Correct.
8 p.m. Okay.
Correct. It goes 4 p.m. and then 5 p.m. and then all the other numbers they start to go down after that.
Yep. If as far as leaf blower complaints, have y'all responded a lot to that at all? That has been quite the discussion up here, spanning several months. And so I'm just curious if you responded to a lot of those calls, and if so, what have you discovered, or how are those going?
So in the 90 days, all we responded to was, and it's on this, well, that's not working, but we only responded to 2 leaf blower violations over the whole 90 days.
Okay. And could you share anything about it? I know there were some difficulties about not knowing. I think we figured out who we're supposed to ticket and
so
how to deal with unmarked vehicles as well. But if you could help me understand how those calls are going, and
as far as the leaf blower,
if there's been any challenges with, or I guess y'all don't even, do they provide a ticket? Y'all aren't.
We don't
even
have
ticketing.
no enforcement at all.
So what happens when you go on the scene in one of these situations?
So our thing is education.
Okay.
And what we also can do is put in a 311 ticket to the health department, who then does follow up on that to provide either the owner tickets or the landscaping company. But we've been trained to just know how to identify the difference between a gas and an electric leaf blower, which is pretty easy to tell.
And as far as addressing with our homeless population, unhoused population, how are we doing there? Are we keeping track of how many people we've been able to help get housed, or how many people were, outside that we found a home for, found another arrangement for?
Yeah, absolutely. So with the housing, that's probably the toughest thing that we deal with because the resources. But what we have been able to do is, and we've seen it be successful, if we stay on individuals with following up with connections and seeing their case manager and doing their follow up, we have seen people get housing very, very quickly when they do those things. When they don't do those things, it's kind of like they always fall to the bottom of the list. And so when we've seen individuals who followed up and checked in and went and talked to the case manager, we've had maybe a handful of individuals who've been housed in maybe a month or less.
Yeah, I'd love if it's not too much trouble, if y'all can start to track some of that, especially if y'all are going to continue doing case management. It'd be nice to know what some of those outcomes are.
Absolutely.
Okay. But again, I just want to end it and say, I really want the community. I want this community to look out there at other cities. You're not going to find too many cities that have a funded police department in the way we have. I think it's $36 million. I asked Manager Stowe to get that figure to me. What's the budget right now in community responders right now?
So for this year, we allocated $400,000.
Got $400,000 of community responders. And then Audrey, I sent you a text, but what are we at right now for youth and young adult, roughly speaking? Little over 2 million. And so again, as we're talking about budget season right now, and we're looking, benchmarking ourselves always against other cities. So as the community, as you're doing your own homework, find me a city that's got 2 million to youth and young adult, right? Another close to $500,000 towards care team, community responders, not community service officers. That's a different program, community responders, and then $36 million to their police department. With a population our size, especially, we're contributing a lot again towards keeping Evanston safe, and we appreciate everybody that's doing that work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Newsmith, followed by Hedekadis, followed by Ravel, followed by Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will try and be quick here since there's a lot of folks who want their time. Thank you, Mr. Dorsey, for all your work, and to your team as well. If you could go back to the slide, the pie chart, I'm curious if you found anything surprising about that one. Yeah, if
there you
go. There you go. Is that pretty much what you expected? Was there anything surprising here, or you were totally unsure since this is a brand new program we're just standing up? We didn't know what we were getting into.
Yeah, we kind of still in the evaluation phase. We kind of really didn't know, but what we did see is that a lot of our police calls, and it's based off the data that you'll see in the breakdown as well, is they're doing a lot of check well-beings. And so I think taking on a lot of those check well-beings on their behalf, that doesn't surprise me. What does surprise me a little bit is the nuisance complaints, because mostly, especially with Northwestern back in school, most of those come later after we are not on shift. But ironically, we've experienced a lot of different nuisance complaints. That can be a neighbor with his next door neighbor playing loud music. So it varies, but that was a bit surprising to me. And then the mental subject, it doesn't surprise me at all. I actually thought it would be up a little bit higher than that, because I feel like that we deal with that a lot on a day.
Okay. When we were setting up this program, several folks went to, I think it was Dayton, Ohio, and kind of shadowed them for a few days. Does what we're seeing here, how does that correspond to what you saw in Dayton?
I think it's a different community once, and also Dayton is only responding Monday through Friday, like a 9 to 5 type of thing. So ours is a bit different. So I don't see any correlations there.
Great, thanks. To pick up on what Councilmember Reed was saying about making sure your team is taking care of themselves, what plans, what protocols, what can we put in place to help retain all these talented folks that we have now brought up to speed and invested considerable resources in? It's my understanding that programs such as this will be expanding statewide based on a new state law. So there's going to be more demand from other communities for exactly what we're doing now. Right. What can we put in place to make sure we keep the good people that we have working for us?
I think one of the things is, and I know it's been a lot of, conversation back and forth about it, but I think one thing is just acknowledging that this is a first response. I think a lot of people say, you got the police, the fire, we're responding directly from a radio, and the first people on the call, to me, that's a first responder. And so I think acknowledging that, in terms of compensation will be helpful for us. Also, I think that the team and I work very closely on like helping each other through the difficult days, and debriefing has been very helpful for us. We do team outings together. But also, I think just the overall self-care is like, the city has a lot of resources in terms of if you need to talk to someone or different things like that. So I think there's a lot of different ideas that we've used so far that work for us. But as the work continues to go and it's trying to stay motivated to do this work, I think we have to be creative in terms of how we compensate, how we appreciate, and how ultimately the amount of gratitude that we give to these individuals who come home every day and with other people's problems.
Yeah, so I have to imagine that community appreciation is a significant
Absolutely.
Portion of that. So I've heard really good things from residents in the 4th Ward. Just want to extend that to you and your team. How grateful we are that you guys are on the job now.
Thank you.
And then one last question. You mentioned the database that you're using, the Apricot.
Mm-hmm.
Does that interface with other databases that community partners and other city departments are using?
So the only other department that's using Apricot right now is our Youth and Family Services division. So it's very helpful when we have shared clients or we run into individuals to go back and get that historical data. But from my understanding, that's the only other division that's using that platform.
Because you mentioned connections, so you're interfacing with them a lot for a number of these types of calls.
Correct.
They have their own database.
Correct.
I want to make sure we're setting up some communications protocols where information is appropriately being shared.
Yeah, and a part of that is we have this as part of the collective have this like shared agreement waiver, so to speak, where we can share information amongst organizations, not particularly on a database, but can call and inquire and different things like that.
Right. Great. All right. Thank you. That's all
No
for
problem.
now.
Thank you.
Councilmember Hadakatis, followed by Ravel, followed by Harris.
Well, Deputy Director Dorsey, I just want to thank you for your team's hard work. I'll also share that I've gotten some really incredibly positive feedback from residents in the 9th Ward about, some of the response that you folks have had with wellness checks and, not easy calls by any stretch, and they're just really impressed with your team. One quick question about the chart, since my eyesight is failing me. I just want to the one with the time. I just want to verify. So it starts at 1 a.m. and goes to, I'm just guessing because.
So originally, yes.
So
1 to
the
10
left
p.m.
side, okay.
Correct. So midnight starts all the way to the left, and then it ends at 11 p.m. all the way to the right.
Great. And then the other thing, I think it's incredibly smart what you folks are doing with the 90-day check-ins, because I know when we got the LEAP report, no community is the same. Every community had different, call volumes, call types. And the other thing too is every community saw their types of calls change once you had a care team, because there are folks that would be hesitant to call a 911 call. And so, this is like a learning experience, and I think that's really smart that you folks are doing that. As we'll go back to budget season, one of my main concerns is properly funding you folks. So I think it is smart that we're looking at, trends and data, and we're not going to make that decision for another, 3 to 6 months. But, I urge all of us up here to keep that in mind, and that we need to shrink that deficit so that we have money available to expand your team, because I think the work you folks are doing is incredibly important. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Revelle, followed by Harris.
Well, I want to add my thanks to you, and you've created a program up from scratch, and so it's really exciting to hear how well it's doing after the first 90 days. My question is about your interaction with Trilogy, and how often does Trilogy and their mobile crisis response team come? And that pie chart showed, quite a big percent of calls were mental health related.
Yeah, so we have interacted with both Trilogy and Turning Point quite a few times. Sometimes the response time, so Trilogy has like a 90-minute response time. And so sometimes, it's kind of just waiting on Trilogy to arrive. But so far since they've arrived, or we have took individuals to the living room over in Skokie, and now the living room opening up by St. Francis, those two organizations have done a tremendous job of helping us, get through those tougher calls. But part of the issue is, with mental health, it's always associated with something else. And so it's like, okay, we can provide mental health support, but this person said they need housing too. And so it's just, trying to get the right it's like putting a puzzle together, trying to get all the right organizations at the table to get that wraparound service. That's some of the things we are looking to build our resources up more so we can do that.
Great. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Harris.
Thank you. I will not belabor the point, but I wanted to say thank you to the team. I think it's a great mix of personalities, experiences, and talents, and I've seen the interactions. So thank you all so much for the work that you're doing. Fully support it. Think it is integral and important to the society we now live in. So you have my full support. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
This time, no one is requesting to speak for the first time, so we go back to Councilmember Reed.
I will be quick. I was thinking, is there equipment that so we set aside $400,000 for this program. It doesn't seem like, between salaries and training and.
Yeah, correct.
It doesn't seem like there's a ton of money left over. There would be a ton of money left over. So is there equipment that you feel would be useful that you don't have access to? First thing that comes to mind for me is
car, right?
Well, you have cars, but maybe you need more, something different. I don't know.
So that's a good point. So we are asking for SUVs in the budget. The cars that we have right now has been repurposed from parking, and we had one down for about 3 weeks already, which impacts our operations.
Right.
And so I think the most need right now is some cars that's reliable, especially with the winter coming. We don't want to end up in a crisis situation where the other team got to come rescue each other.
So vehicle, one thing that came to mind, and maybe this it wouldn't be good for this team, but I thought about body cameras or something, not for the protection of the team, but also, you know, whatever complaint could come in about the care team, just so it's documented.
Yeah, and so that's something that we can look deeper into. Based off our research, so far, no alternative response team wears body cameras or any weapons or even body pepper spray or anything like that. And so we look at it as our mind is our.
Yeah.
That's all we got.
Okay. No, that's helpful. And just whatever other equipment. So, I mean, cars, maybe that's something also council needs to keep in mind as we're trying to bring down our, deficit. And I hate to ask this. I mean, it's all public information anyhow, but what is the median salary for a care team, for a crisis responder here in Evanston?
So the starting range for the salary starts at about 65,000.
Okay. And how did we, and I don't know if this is for Manager Stowe, to Councilmember Newsom's question about, you know, this is going to be coming online in other communities, and, you know, maybe these folks will get offered your job, but in another community. And so thinking about how we both retain folks, but also how do we, when we start competing with other communities, make sure that we are being competitive, and then also just as you noted, respecting the work that is being done and making sure that we're compensating folks appropriately for that work. And so I don't know if you're the person or Manager Stowe, how did we land on that? And will we be reevaluating salary?
So I can answer that question. Sure. So initially these positions were classified as our outreach workers. Mm-hmm. And so that's where that classification come from. And now that we've done this work for 90 days, we see that it's a bit of a different work. And so that's just to answer your question about where the original salary came from. It was mirrored on our outreach team.
So currently our crisis responders are being paid on a scale that is comparable to our outreach team.
Correct.
Okay. So that, again, I feel like that's something that needs to be fixed. And that's something I think needs to be fixed sooner than later. And, certainly should be something that we're looking at before you come back in 6 to however many months, for the expansion of the team. I think if we want to keep a team, that's something we should be looking at for 2025 budget.
And if I can add, Councilmember Reed, I just wanted to say, Councilmember Newsom asked about Dayton, Ohio. So what we learned from Dayton, Ohio, who has been tremendous in helping us build out our programs, they call us their sister partner. They have had significant turnovers in their responders. So about every 6 months, they got new responders. And you can imagine building a relationship with a community, and then 6 months later, it's another individual. It's hard for us to do work if our teams are not turning over. So I just wanted to.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And thank you for your advocacy for your team. So thank you.
Thank you so much. You did not mention that you guys are doing a hell of a job, but you are.
Thank you.
And we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next time. We really appreciate it. It's tremendously important work.
Just a couple quick notes. I did want to share the $400,000. The initial investment was just for this budget year, which of course was a 5 or 6 month period. So the budget for next year will be obviously much larger. The vehicle requests have been placed already, so we're working on the vehicles to make sure they've got the proper vehicles to do their work. Thank you, Deputy Director Dorsey. Thank you, Director Thompson, for your leadership and your hard work. Thank you especially to our 4 crisis responders for doing outstanding work. I remember having a conversation with 2 of you a few weeks ago about a gentleman where we had a breakthrough with a particular person, and I asked how many interactions did it take before you finally had that breakthrough, and I think you estimated about 40 times. So there was 40 interactions with that person before you finally saw some progress. So I think that's just really important and a reminder that sometimes the care team might go out once or twice, and that's literally just the beginning of forming that relationship. It's just some of these things take time. So thank you for all your hard work over the past 91 days. And the youth and young adult team came up multiple times tonight. And I just want to give a shout out to Manager Jeremy McCrae and that team for the outstanding work that they do as well in partnership with you all and the EPD and the rest of city services. They do a lot of work quietly and behind the scenes, and I just want to give them a proper acknowledgement. And lastly, I did want to thank Chief Polyp. He was in the room. I think he went in the automatic library. Chief Polyp and the fire department have also been important partners in getting the CARE team launched. I appreciate their work. So thank you all for being here tonight. With that, we're going to shift gears to Design Evanston Awards, and I think City Engineer Biggs is going to come up to do that item.
Members of City Council, my name is Laura Biggs. I'm the city engineer. So I wanted to share some really great news that on October 4th, 2024, Design Evanston had an awards presentation that included recognition of several city projects for their contribution to the quality of Evanston's designed environment. So the 3 projects that were recognized were the Robert Crown Community Center in the category of new construction, the Howard Street Theater, and Theo Ubeke, the theater company, in the category of rehabilitation and renovation, and the Evanston Skate Park in the category of landscape design. So Design Evanston is a not-for-profit organization that promotes good design within Evanston, and its members include a wide range of professionals that live and work in Evanston, including planners, architects, landscape architects, etc. And they have been an active partner on some of our projects, including the recently completed Central Street Bridge. So we really value them as a stakeholder group. Receiving these awards coming from design professionals that are qualified and capable within our own community really feels like a great recognition. It's really an honor. So we just wanted to say thank you to Design Evanston and let you know that our projects are appreciated.
Thank you so much and congratulations. It's fabulous news. The next item on the agenda is communications from the city clerk.
No, I don't have any public comment, but just wanted to remind people that early voting is open until 7 this week. So come out and vote. And it's open on this weekend as well. And remember that next Monday is the last day of early voting.
Thank you very much. And now we come to public comment. There are not too many people registered for public comment this evening. Perhaps by now there are fewer with us. I appreciate your patience and apologize for the long
3-hour wait.
The 3-hour wait, which is long, and I would apologize except to say that the discussions we had were critical, but your patience is very generous. We'll begin as always with those who signed up in person to speak in person, beginning with Vanessa Frost, followed by Amina Grace, and then Jeremiah Neighbors-Moore.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, and City Clerk Mendoza, and City Manager Stowe. My name is Vanessa Frost, and I'm a member of the 8th Ward. And I'm just here as a friendly reminder that we are definitely in support of the citizens. There's over 2,000 residents that have participated in participatory budgeting. And we just wanted to remind you that we do have a certain concern about budget, and we do like to be in the know and also like to know where the projects are going to be funded. And we also want to know how the projects are going to be funded, because we know citizens, especially citizens here at City of Evanston, are very proud to be a citizen of Evanston. And so we just wanted you to know that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Amina Grace, who will be followed by Jeremiah Neighbors-Moore and then Carl Malchut.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Amira Grace, and I'm a Northwestern student and ETHS alumnus who was involved with participatory budgeting as a budget delegate in 2023. Ever since then, I've been working with PB Evanston to increase participation at an academic and institutional level. Throughout the experience, I've not only gained more knowledge about local government and the importance of citizen involvement, but I've also gained confidence in my ability to talk to others about policy. As an autistic individual who struggled to communicate effectively and as a result felt unable to positively impact people's life, I felt insecure in my ability to create community. Being a part of civic groups in my high school, I absorbed all the knowledge I could about the issues facing the Evanston community as well as the United States, but applying that knowledge was a completely different story. After attending PB idea collections at my high school, I became very involved in PB as I felt that my voice mattered. I started off as a budget delegate, became a canvassing volunteer, and now I hold Northwestern PB processes at my university. What was successful about PB was not purely the projects that got funded, but also the agency that it strengthened in community members. Feeling more capable of changing issues in my community made me feel more capable of changing issues in my own life. As a budget delegate, I worked with a committee of all people who were older than me, so I was initially intimidated, but they respected my ideas and a lot of my contributions were apparent in the final proposal. Even though my proposal wasn't chosen, the process of developing one was an extremely uplifting experience. As a canvasser, I was hesitant and skeptical, knowing that my previous history with communication but I was surprised when I had an entire team of people behind me to encourage me to go outside of my comfort zone. These experiences truly impacted how I viewed my capability of citizens and the capability of citizens and my own capabilities. At this point, there isn't a sustainable plan to continue PB in Evanston. Knowing how the process impacted me, I want to see other people engage with their city and community in this way, and PB uniquely initiates this engagement by allowing citizens to generate ideas, write proposals, and participate in outreach. This is a tremendous opportunity for young people like me, and an even greater opportunity for the city to learn about voices that typically go unheard. I urge the city to create a long-term plan for PB so that residents can continue to have a pivotal role in shaping Evanston's future. We want a future of civically engaged citizens. We want a future where historically marginalized people feel they have agency over their lives. We want young people to feel capable and not like a burden to their society. Processes like PB elicit that kind of change. It's necessary for everyone to collaborate in making our city a better place, and PB is a first step. Thank you for your time, and I hope you will consider my words.
I was just a continuation of her speech, just in case she didn't have enough time, so I would like to waive my time.
Thank you very much. In that case, the next speaker is Carl Malhood, who will be followed by Eric Passett.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and City Council. I just want to come and say thank you and give you gratitude. For the last 3 months, I have done activism and organizing in the Southlands from Dalton to Harvey. And I have seen, even though we've been at a 3-hour meeting, I kept looking at the back because I wondered when the police were going to come for me or by me. I just want to thank you all for your honesty and transparency and the fact that as every Evanstonian, I think, is an activist, and we are also the vanguard of our community and our world at times. I find myself in awe of who we are as a city and what we can be. And in doing this organizing and activist work, I think tonight, as many of my friends are at this Harvey City Council meeting, that one of Chicago's finest, from a good stock, Cook County Commissioner leadership, Colby Chapman, was arrested this week, well, just last week, just for standing up to Mayor Christopher Clark there. But we don't have those kind of things happen here. There's a peace. But when I go down there, I see a mirror difference that challenges me, but also inspires me. I take from my own boot camp that I had with Alderman Chrissy years ago, where she made sure that I knew process to find myself much more a process hawk watching these meetings. I hope to bring some of these people from the Southland here for a city council meeting, maybe pretty soon, just to tell their story. I know we cannot interfere with another city's business, but in Evanston, we are vanguard, each and every one of us. As I said before, every one of us is an activist, I feel, within Evanston, but we also make quakes. And even just me showing up has scared some politicians. And I received some intimidating messages myself from a local politician in that area. But I just want to say I am grateful to be a son of Evanston and to be shaped by a mayor who brought me back into my Jewish faith. He wasn't trying, but just in a good conversation. And an alderman who taught me the beauty and the meaning of process, but also just accepted me as one of the most annoying student senators at Oakton. But still, someone who's now making strides and even speaking in front of the Cook County Commission like I did last week. So I want to thank you for making me who I am as an Evanstonian.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Eric Passett.
Well, I'm Eric Passett from North Shore Apartments and Condos, and I'm also a resident of the 4th Ward. And I guess I wanted to respond to one thing about something Alderman Reed said. Why didn't more people speaking up about the budget? And I'm not addressing that as far as the budget, but I think a lot of times people, I'm going to say myself, I've been here over the 25 years I've been coming to the city council meeting, I've been here, I'd probably say 100 times, probably more than that, speaking up about defending landlords and small businesses. And sometimes, I'd say a lot of times I feel like we're not heard. And the reason I'm going to say that is tonight, you're proposing another ordinance about, taking away the breeds of dog, now we can't restrict breeds of dogs in our buildings. And I have a dog myself, okay? I'd say over half the buildings I represent allow dogs. But to, again, impose upon how we can manage our buildings again is way overstepping your bounds. And it's, I spoke up here, I don't know how many months ago when the new RLTO laws were passed, one of the owners I worked for sold this building, a lot. And I talked to him a couple days ago. He says, I'm so happy not to own a building in Evanston anymore. And another one of these laws is exactly why people walk away from Evanston. And yet you continue to bring them up. I can't tell you how many city council meetings I've been here speaking up against this. Yet, and how many landlords continue to come here as often as I do? Not many. Most of them are very frustrated by it. I can tell you that from personal experience. I talked to so many of them. Yet, we continue to have these laws brought. I shouldn't have to be here for this. I can't tell you how many, we get a big dog in our building that becomes mean, and people don't want to live in our building. They're scared. And so we should take away that restriction. Give us some rights as landlords. How many more are you going to take away? How many times have I been here talking about small businesses, yet, things continue to happen to go to almost like you want us to leave Evanston. It's just enough said. So.
Thank you very much. That concludes the in-person portion of our public comment. There's one person waiting to speak online, so the next speaker will be Catherine Gotzik. Catherine, are you able to unmute yourself? Or are you, it looks like you're unmuted, maybe? Remuted now? Oh, there we go. Hello? Yeah, it looks like you're unmuted on this side of the machine, but we're still unable to hear you. All right, well, there seems to be some technical difficulty. As you well know, if you send an email to council, they'll be able to receive it, or likely even, wow. Oh, hold on,
Can you
Catherine.
hear me?
We can hear you and some feedback. It's a wild evening. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry about that. I'll be very quick. I just would like to express support for item ED1, which is the grants for businesses on small businesses on Main Street to apply for post-construction. I'm not sure how many will apply for it, but I believe that the offer will be deeply appreciated, and I know that some will take advantage of it. Thank you very much for understanding that the construction on Main Street has been profoundly impactful on the businesses down there, and for seeking ways to show support. And that's all.
Thank you very much. That concludes public comment for the evening. The next item is the consent agenda. Councilmember Harris.
I just wanted to go on record. Carol was one of my students at Oakton College, and very proud to see you here. And I know you emailed me, so keep up the good work. Keep being conscious. And yeah, he would work the system, not work the system, but had lots of questions, and that's a good thing. There's nothing wrong with that. So keep up the good work, Carl.
Now, are there any items folks would like to see removed from the consent agenda?
I believe the minutes have been amended.
A2, please. All right, so we have A2, M1,
A10
A10,
and FB2.
FB2. Councilmember Reed?
I was going to move the agenda, but I'll remove HS2.
HS2. Anything else? What we have at this time is M1, A2, A10, HS2, and FB2. Is there anything else?
I will move the consent agenda minus those items.
Second.
Councilmember Reed moves approval of the consent agenda with the exception of the items M1, A2, A10, HS2, and FB2. Councilmember Harris seconds. Seeing no discussion, will the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember Burns is out of the room. Councilmember Sufferton.
I abstain.
Councilmember Ravel.
Aye.
Councilmember Reed.
Aye.
Councilmember Hedakaris.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly. Councilmember Harris.
Aye.
Councilmember Newsma.
Aye.
With 6 voting in favor, none voting against, and 1 abstention, the motion carries and the consent agenda is passed. Now, is there a motion relative to the minutes?
Point of order, and I'm sorry. Did we not remove A2?
We removed A2.
We did.
My apologies. Just our rules state that if someone abstains, they have to state why.
Yeah, as you know, I've abstained on any votes related to Amazon since I've been on City Council. Since 2017, every time.
Yeah, and I'm sorry. I thought we removed A2.
We just.
Yeah, that was the consent agenda. So
it's done.
I think we're. I think we're just going to move on, and
I was here at 5:30. I just want that. I've been here for 3 hours.
No, you did not vote. You abstained. That's a whole different thing.
I'm on the record as
you're
being
on the record
here.
as a guy who was here and abstaining. Is there a motion relative to item M1?
So moved.
Second.
So this is the approval of the amended minutes from the October 14, 2024 meeting. Was moved by Councilmember Reed, seconded by Councilmember Newsma. Is there any discussion or confusion about the amendment?
Just
Councilmember Reed?
for the future, if we're not going to amend them on the floor, if the amendment was made prior to us making the motion, I don't think it needed to be pulled from the consent agenda.
Yeah, we could have structured it
Yeah.
as like a heads
Sure.
up. That's right.
Yeah.
Will the clerk please take the roll? This is also not about Amazon.
Councilmember Burns is out of the room. Councilmember Sufferton.
Aye.
Councilmember Ravel.
Aye.
Councilmember Reed.
Aye.
Councilmember Hedakaris.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly. Councilmember Harris.
Aye.
Councilmember Newsma.
Aye.
With 7 voting in favor and none voting against, the motion carries and the amended minutes are approved. Now on item A2, Councilmember Harris, do you have a motion?
I move for the approval of BMO Harris Amazon credit card activity.
Second.
Councilmember Harris moves approval of BMO Harris Amazon credit card activity. Councilmember Newsma seconds. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember Burns is out of the room again. Councilmember Sufferton.
I abstain.
Councilmember Ravel.
Aye.
Councilmember Reed.
Aye.
Councilmember Hadakaris.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly. Councilmember Harris.
Aye.
Councilmember Nusma.
Aye.
With 6 voting in favor, none voting against, and 1 abstention, the motion carries, and the activity is approved. Now on item A10, Councilmember Harris, do you have a motion?
Yep, I move for the approval of change order number 1 to the agreement with Ampo Group International for renovations at Bent Park Fieldhouse.
Second.
Councilmember Harris moves approval of change order number 1 to the agreement just referenced. Councilmember Reed seconds. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Kelly.
So there was just, I noted that it says the line item has a fiscal year 2025 budget of 600. That's, should read 2024, I believe. Okay. And then, I guess, I expressed it before in APW. Of course, I don't want to hold up the project, and I know it's already begun. It was difficult, challenging to approve it at 600 and whatever it was initially. But now it's exceeding $800,000 for a roughly 600 square foot rehab. And it's too high, and I know we can't stop it now, but I guess what I would like to see is this maybe held for till next session, just to get some clarity and some assurance that going forward we will, this sort of square foot, this is like $1,100 a square foot, and it just doesn't add up. So, I don't know that there's any appetite on here to hold this, to get some clarity as to why or at least, and some assurance going forward that will, seek, that we just shouldn't be spending this amount. And I agree with the many residents have called and texted and emailed with concerns about this cost. So anyway, I just want to express my concern, my deep concern about the high price for this rehab. Again, we could build from ground up easily, a brand new field house that's, even has more bells and whistles, we could probably build 2, but for over $800,000 for a rehab on this size is exorbitant. Thank you.
Councilmember Sufferton, followed by Burns.
Thanks. And this happens to be in my ward, but I share your concerns. And I don't know if Director Thompson is still here or if it's appropriate to ask questions of Laura or Shane. We are where we are now, and there's a cost, and I don't know if we know what it is, that would be, there's a cost to stopping and starting a new project. My understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, is structurally, no matter what we do, if we retain this building, this work has to be done. So if we were to bid this out again, we would receive bids that are materially higher than what we got before, because now this is a known condition. Is that correct, or am I misstating that?
Yes, that's correct. That at this point, and Shane Carey, the current project manager, clarified this in APW, that if we had included this work in the original bid, we might be paying slightly more as a change order, but we would have basically paid this additional amount as part of the bid. This is work that has to be done if we want to renovate the existing facility.
Okay. And I appreciate what you want to do with holding it and making sure that we get this right. I want that too, but from a practical standpoint, if we were to hold this now, we would just add time to when we get to completion.
Yes. So the contractor is more or less racing the weather at this point to get the building enclosed. And if the longer that we delay, the less likely they are able to complete the masonry work with the temperatures being favorable. If they're not favorable, we either incur additional costs for winter work, or we incur additional delays, potentially significant, in getting the work complete in the spring.
Okay. So like if we want to save money on this, stopping this isn't necessarily the way to do it. Director Thompson, I'm sorry to make you get out of it, but the completed building is important for programming also. Because the other thing we could do is go for a much smaller, just bathroom facility that doesn't have things, but long term, that's not going to help your department meet its programming goals.
Thank you, Audrey Thompson, Parks and Recreation Department Director. So correct, Councilmember Sufferton, and we do have camps there every year. We were not able to have camps there for the last couple of years, and it It does significantly impact our operations. And as you all are aware, we are doing a lot more things outdoors. We would love to bring more programming to our parks. And that helps us when we have a field house with restrooms. And so it's important for us to move forward.
Okay. And you have valid points, and everyone who expressed concerns in committee has valid points, and none of us are thrilled to have a substantial change order this early in the process. But also, none of us really chose to undertake this project. It was thrust upon us 3 years ago, and then we had to wait for insurance and so forth. So, I guess we talked about this last week, we have other buildings that are likely to have the same issue in some of our parks. Now we know that, heads up on that going forward. I agree, it's as a per square foot construction cost, it looks like a lot. Part of that we bring upon ourselves with some of our requirements for these buildings. That's not a good or bad thing. It's just something to be considered when you assess what construction costs relative to what it would cost if you did it on the cheap. So I appreciate the work that you all did. I know going back to when this fire happened, staff has been trying to figure this out. Director Thompson, I look forward to you having a building that will allow you to do all the programming that you have done in the past and expand it, because Bent Park's a very important park. It's not just a neighborhood park. There's a lot of activities that happen there. The bathroom and the field house are important. So, but I didn't catch everything in committee, but I assume everyone said this is expensive, this is bad, but here we are, and in order to get this done, this change order is necessary because there's no way around it. So, I think that I'm done.
Councilmember Burns.
Going to price first, I've said this before, and I've said it enough to where at this point we should have some council member or community member that has referred somebody to a bid process in the city. And what I'm saying is we can't keep doing, I know a guy, I know a woman that can do this for lower. Get them to bid on projects. This is a bid. They have an opportunity to come in lower than other bidders. Please, whoever these people are, because we hear them all the time. I've never seen them. There's never been a sighting, but I hear about them. Please encourage them to bid on our projects. It's incredibly available. It's open. It's an open bid process. And if they can come in lower, please, and I mean this, encourage them to bid on our projects. Because I look back at what staff just gave us, this was the lowest bid. Right. And so to question the cost at this point, when we had an open and fair bid process and we went with the lowest bidder, to question the price at this late stage is not fair. Get them in early if they think they can beat everybody else. And we'd love to see it. Nobody up here is going to be like, oh, they did it for 400,000. We want it to be 600,000. Nobody's going to say that. So really, I mean that sincerely. Please, whoever these contractors are that can do all this work for the city, again, meeting our standards, which is different from the standards you're going to have at your home or, a private building that's owned, but meeting the standards of a public organization. Please encourage them to apply if they can get these numbers down. But what I'm a little concerned about is the inspection process. And so the question that I received more so even than price is why we didn't catch this earlier. And my hope was that I know staff did some visual inspection at some point, but my hope was that when the structural engineer came in, there's a lot of different techniques. There's a borescope, there's infrared thermography. There's things that they could have done to better understand how oxidized, I think is the word, these bricks were, or something in the bricks. And I'm not sure they did all of that. I think what they went in there and did from talking to staff was another visual inspection, maybe with structural engineering eyes, but they didn't bring out any fancy equipment. And so to the question of whether or not we could have caught this earlier, it seems like it's a fair question. And so I guess my thought is there anything that we can do in during the bidding process to allow someone who's bidding on a project to bring in equipment if they want to the next time, to inspect the buildings thoroughly so that they can let us know whether or not, we need repair versus replacement, so we don't find out about this later. Because I think really what the community is saying is I don't know if a bunch of people are questioning the cost necessarily. We're hearing that, but it's also, you want this to be integrated within the bid process, because then everybody, we at least get an opportunity to see if somebody could come in lower. And when it comes in this way, it's like, all right, this is the cost and that's it. And maybe there's some room for negotiation. I don't know, but we know in the bid process that the point of it is to try to get people to compete for the project, and there's a lot of incentive obviously built in for people to figure out ways to be more efficient and lower costs. So I think that's the concern. And so for next time, I understand, I don't know if there's any savings that we'll realize from holding this now, but I do think this might be an opportunity for us to figure out how we can address this moving forward with other similar projects. So, and I'll follow up with staff on that point offline.
To the point that you made, there was on this project a mandatory pre-bid meeting that contractors were supposed to attend and were required to attend. And in addition, Bent Park Fieldhouse, unlike some of our facilities, is really pretty open. It's just sitting in the middle of the park, and this particular issue is pretty visible. But it gets down to destructive testing, and it would be hard for us to allow a contractor that was just bidding to poke a hole in our building, because we don't have a contractual relationship at that point. So that would be the challenge. But I think that you brought up a lot of good points, and we would continue to look at integrating some of that feedback into our bid process.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, no one is requesting to speak for a first time, so we go back to Councilmember Kelly with 3:25 left.
Thank you. And to be clear, I didn't want to, and no intentions to hold up the project. It was just the idea of holding if it wouldn't hold it up, in order to reflect and review on the high price of this. And, it's not my job to go out, Bobby, and get bids. So I would like staff to look into, Evanston is somewhat notorious for having very costly projects at the square foot level. And I think we should be looking at that. We talk about affordability. So when we build, when we're repairing a 600 square foot field house with 2 bathrooms at over $800,000, I just think we really do need to stop and understand why many of our projects are exorbitantly costly, and more than in other communities when you look at other projects done at similar time periods. So it's not that were done 20 years ago or 5 years ago, but done now with comparative costs, that ours end up being so costly. And I see the bids. I just think we need to stop and take a hard look at why our projects are so costly. That's all.
At this time, no one is requesting to speak for a first time, so we go back to Councilmember Burns with 45 seconds left.
I'm just always looking for action. And so I think the action then, from what I'm hearing, is let's discuss it at finance and budget, right? I would support that. I think it's important for this council, any council who has the power to set agendas, for us to take action. And so I appreciate you saying that, because to me, that's a discussion that we should consider at finance and budget. That's all. Thank you.
Still no one's requesting to speak for a first time, so we go back to Councilmember Suffredin with 1:55 left.
Thanks. Unrelated to that, there is probably an opportunity here to utilize what we're learning about this facility in other parks facilities that were likely built around the same time, right? I mean, so part of what we're paying for is an education. I know Ackerman has a similar field house. Baker, I assume somewhere in the city there's another building built around the same time with the same design that
yes.
may require. So it's not a complete loss, right? Like we're learning something.
Absolutely. My name is Shane Carey, architect and project manager in Public Works. You're absolutely right. Ackerman Park Fieldhouse has almost identical construction as far as I can tell. and we're definitely going to be looking very closely at that building, which is, I think we're already planning on doing a project in the next couple of years, and so how we scope that project is definitely going to change based on this information. There are a couple of other buildings that have some similarities to the issue that we're having at Bent Park, including the Civic Center, should add. But it's also important to understand that each building is a little bit different. So even the Civic Center, we have half of the building has these brick ties, the other half does not, because it's built at earlier time period by about 20 years earlier or so. So the issues change, and which confound our efforts, but we're definitely going to change the way we scope for the Ackerman Park Fieldhouse.
Cool. Just all right. Look at that. Thanks.
Will the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember Burns.
Aye.
Councilmember Sufferton.
Aye.
Councilmember Ravel.
Aye.
Councilmember Reed.
Aye.
Councilmember Hadakaris.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly.
Aye.
Councilmember Harris.
Aye.
Councilmember Nusma.
Aye.
With 8 voting in favor and none voting against, the motion carries and the change order is approved. Now on item HS2, is there a motion?
I will move, I'm going to move item HS2, but I'm also going to table it. But I do want to move it to very quickly say something. Thank you.
Councilmember Reed moves introduction of ordinance 70-0-24. Councilmember Harris seconds. Councilmember Reed.
Thank you. I'm going to move to table this, but I do quickly want to address, so one, I'm going to move to table this. The police department has an amendment that they would like to make, that's wrapped up in this code. And so I think rather than going through a whole new process, it makes sense to work that amendment into this. There are a few amendments that the animal shelter folks would like to see as well, that I want to add in here. So I do want to table this. The police department amendment is new. It just came up, I believe, today or recently, this morning. But I do want to address, and I'm sorry that he left, but he waited long enough, Mr. Bissett. There's nothing in this draft of the ordinance or the draft that I anticipate coming back November 11th that would stop a landlord, housing provider, whatever you want to call them, from being able to deal with a dog that causes a nuisance, or or if it's a Saint Bernard and it's slobbering, you still could, or based on the size of the dog, so that you don't want, a 150-pound dog in your house, in your rental property. That's fine. But to specifically say that a particular breed, which there's no evidence that particular breeds are more aggressive than other breeds, and the breeds that maybe do tend to be a bit more aggressive or yappy are the smaller ones that are usually allowed, everywhere. So there's just no evidence to support this. We know that the history of breed restrictions is wrapped up in classism and racism and a whole bunch of isms, and we just need to stop it and outlaw it and take away this proxy that folks have for race and other issues. So I'm going to move to table this to our November 11th. Oh, okay. I'm going to hold that table for comment. Yes. Stop my time.
Councilmember Newsmith, followed by Ravel.
Thank you. I'm glad this is being held to take a little bit more time. I do want to express some skepticism, echoing what we heard in public comment today, from the perspective of dog owners and landlords. I wonder if by not allowing landlords to have some kind of restrictions on the type or size of dogs, we might have more landlords decide to not allow dogs at all and end up with the unintended consequences of having fewer homes for dogs in Evanston rental properties. So I'm concerned about that potential unintended consequence. So I'm going to be very mindful of that as this moves forward.
And just point of information, I just want to be clear that the ordinance as it is in front of us today does not restrict size.
Councilmember Revelle.
Just type brief.
But on that point, we did get, I think we all got an email today on the point of saying that we should include no discrimination on the size of the animal. So there's a lot to still be looked into, I think. I couldn't quite find the email just now, but I'll see if I can. Did you get that?
I didn't see it today, but I've had conversations with folks from the Evanston Animal Shelter, and
Right.
that is something they've raised.
Right, okay.
Shall we refer this back to Human Services?
No.
At this time, no one is asking to speak for the first time, so we go back to Councilmember Reed with 2:45 left.
Would you like this to come back to Human Services? I'm going to move to table this to our November 11th meeting.
Councilmember Reed moves to table this item to the November 11th meeting. Councilmember Byrd seconds. Would the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember Burns.
Aye.
Councilmember Sufferton. Aye. Councilmember Revelle.
Aye.
Councilmember Reed.
Aye.
Councilmember Heracles.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly.
Aye.
Councilmember Harris.
Aye.
Councilmember Newsma.
Aye.
With 8 voting in favor and none voting against, the motion carries, and Ordinance 70-0-24 is tabled to the November 11th regular meeting of the Evanston City Council. Now on item FB2, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Councilmember Reed moves to approve interfund transfers from the general fund to the equipment replacement and special assessment funds as outlined in the item. Councilmember Harris.
Yep.
Seconds. Councilmember Kelly, followed by Reed.
So I realize that we discussed this in finance and budget, but this is an unbudgeted transfer, correct? For the 2024. Okay. So I see no advantage to anybody in transferring this now, and only a disadvantage in terms of obscuring and distorting our year-end fund balance. This bill isn't going to come due probably until who knows when, but sometime next year. It's not going to come due January 1st or January 2nd. We should simply make this an allocation from our unassigned reserves in the 2025 budget, and not make that transfer now. Again, that's just a way to deplete our unassigned reserves now, and then it appears that we have less at the end of the year. So I think it's better accounting, better clarity for everybody involved if we simply allocate this. This is a 2025 budget expense taken from our unassigned reserves.
Councilmember Reed.
Thank you. And as was discussed at Finance and Budget Committee, this expenditure was approved in 2024, correct? So the expenditure was approved in 2024. I think quite the opposite, that this helps us have a clearer financial picture because we approved the expenditure, the fire trucks are coming, and whatever else we're funding with this, it's coming. And so I personally would appreciate it being on the books so I can see where the money is as we're making decisions about how to close a $12 million budget deficit. To me, this provides an even clearer picture and sets aside money that we've already agreed to spend for the purpose that we've agreed to spend it on. Thank you.
At this time, no one is requesting to speak for a first time, so we go back to Councilmember Kelly with 4 minutes and 10 seconds left.
Yeah, I think we're doing far too many unbudgeted fund transfers. And then we end up saying we have this deficit because of all of these fund transfers. This doesn't need to happen. We probably won't get the bill. The gentleman came up from, I can't remember the name of the firm we always use, and said, we can pay for this after we get the truck. There's no reason. We need some clarity at the end of the year as to where our unassigned fund balance stands. We will have a significant, as staff has said, we will have a very significant unassigned fund balance. This is just a way to, this just ends up reducing it unnecessarily and gives us a false picture as to where we stand. So I disagree. We agreed to buy the truck. Of course, I stand behind that, but there's no reason to make an unbudgeted fund transfer. That's all.
Would the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember Burns.
Aye.
Councilmember Sufferton. Aye. Councilmember Revelle.
Aye. Councilmember
Reed.
Aye.
Councilmember Heracles.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly.
No.
Councilmember Harris. Councilmember Newsma.
Aye.
With 7 voting in favor and 1 voting against, the motion carries and the transfers are approved. Now on call of the wards, Councilmember Burns.
I'm going to talk about call of the wards during call of the wards. So I talked to Mayor Biss and Manager Stowe about this, and would love for my colleagues to weigh in at some point. We do call the awards at the end. By the end of the meeting, most people have gone from the audience, and most people are no longer online. And so we're essentially speaking to the media, which I don't think was what Call Awards, what was envisioned when Call Awards was developed. And so I talked to them about us considering moving us to the beginning of the meeting alongside, the mayor's report and city manager report, city clerk report during primetime hours. But limiting it, because I understand there's 9 of us. There's 3 of them in terms of mayor, city clerk, city manager. So I think it could get out of hand. And so what I've proposed, at least talking to them, is that it will be restricted to let's say 2 minutes to start. But I do think it's important for the community to hear from its duly elected corporate authorities at the beginning of the meeting during prime time. And that's why I've stopped making Call Awards, because there's nobody here. And I don't think too many people are watching these after the fact. So I would appreciate if y'all considered it, and we can let Mayor Biss know. I still don't know if something Mayor Biss can just do, or if we need to discuss it at rules, but I'll let Mayor Biss and Manager Stowe figure that out if there's interest. And that's all. Thank you.
Councilmember Sufferton.
Meeting tomorrow night at Max Bike and Goods on Central Street at 6 o'clock on Envision Evanston, and then I'll let Councilmember Revelle hype the meeting on the 30th related to budget.
Noted. Hype woman, Councilmember Revelle.
Yes. So joint 1st Ward, 6th Ward, and 7th Ward meeting on the proposed 2025 budget on Wednesday at 6 o'clock, and it's a hybrid meeting, so you can do it. You can attend at home, but it will also be here in the Civic Center on the 2nd floor down the hall. Hope to see a lot of you there.
Councilmember Reed.
Yes. I'll start practicing the 2 minutes now. 8th Ward meeting say it again. 8th Ward meeting this Wednesday at 6:30. There's a hybrid link, and the newsletter went out, so encourage folks to join that. We'll have Rob Beatty discussing advocacy for pickleball courts, and then we'll have the economic development team discussing the Callan Art Plaza proposal, as well as we will have other folks. And so check out the 8th Ward newsletter and join in there. And then also on November 6th, we'll have a joint 5th and 2nd Ward budget meeting that I know folks are going to attend and have things to say. So looking forward to that. And also just say thank you to Miss Reed, Naomi, Kelly Terrell, and Sean Isles, and the folks who stuck around for the whole time. Thank you.
Councilmember Hercaris.
So on November 7th, we are having a joint ward meeting to discuss the budget. It'll be the 3rd, 4th, and 9th wards at the South End Community Center at 5:30, from 5:30 to 7 on November 7th. See you all there.
Councilmember Kelly.
Just to reiterate, we have a ward meeting on the budget on the 30th, Wednesday at 6 o'clock. It's the 1st, 6th, and 7th ward meetings, and we're meeting in the Civic Center, room 2402.
Councilmember Harris.
Shout out to the 2nd Ward that's on the TV. That's 2nd Ward people. I didn't say all, just to the 2nd Ward people, Miss Reed and Kelly for sure, 2nd Ward. I wanted to send a shout out to our public works. I encourage everybody to go by Hartree. The sidewalk is amazing, Hartree and Greenwood. It's a really nice project. Traffic has picked up. Our students are safer for being over there. Tomorrow, the 29th, there is a 2nd Ward meeting at Robert Crown. Begins at 6:30. I encourage everybody in the 2nd Ward to come by. We have some treats from the Zaymart on Dempster and Dodge. Then I'd like to send a shout out to the health department. They just celebrated 150 years. They had a really nice program the other day. So shout out to a health department that is helping, much like our first responders, keeping Evanston safe. So I just wanted to lift them up. That's it.
Councilmember Nusma.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In addition to the joint ward meeting on November 7th, which Councilmember Hayakatis mentioned, we do have 2 upcoming meetings in the 4th Ward, including this Saturday, November 2nd from 10 to noon. We are doing an open house style community meeting regarding the Custer Avenue development, which that proposal was approved unanimously by the Land Use Commission and will be coming to council at our first meeting in November. So this is an opportunity for community members with questions or concerns about that project to meet with the developer, meet with me. And then the following week, Saturday, November 9th, regular office hours, 10 a.m. to noon at Berry Pike Cafe at Oak and Davis. Thank you.
Seeing nothing further on our agenda, the October 28th meeting of the Evanston City Council stands adjourned.